Welcome, everyone. This is your friend, the DN What If, here with another exciting fanfiction. Today, we're diving into the story of what if Deku ran away from his dad to save his life? If you enjoy this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more fanfiction content just like this. Now, let's get started with the fanfic. Mom. Izuku squeaks, wobbling over to where his mother is cleaning the dishes, so excited that he was constantly vibrating in place. The computer. He tugs on her skirts with one hand and holding an All Might figure in the other, clenching it in his fists as his mother turns to him. Again. She laughs wholeheartedly, following him to his room where he was watching the same All Might video over and over again. Izuku, it's too scary for me, I can't watch it. Though I bet you've already added 1,000 views by yourself. Inko leaves the room and smiles sadly as she hears her son laughing deeply, imitating his favorite hero. Her eyebrow creases in worry. Mom, I'm scared. 4-year-old Izuku whimpers, tears flowing down his red face as his mother and him can finally cry after his drunken and abusive father has left the house to hook up with another woman, probably. It's okay, sweetie. Her voice quivers as she hugs her son tight, feeling his warm skin under her cold touch. It'll be okay. Izuku never understood why she always said those words. It'll be okay, Izukin. When? When will it ever okay? He's been praying for so long, hoping that he can actually believe his mother for her to say it's okay. I want it to be okay. What's wrong with Dad today? He asks, hiding his face in her chest as he continued to sob uncontrollably. He's just mad today, we should give him some alone time. Inko knew her friend Mitsuki probably knew about all of this, but she didn't want to tell her, because she didn't have enough money to sue him. She used to love him after all, but then after Izuku was shown to be quirkless, he just snapped. Went outside more, continued smoking even though he quitted when he met Inko, started drinking, had CC with other women and only ever let them sleep in the same house. Izuku was always so confused when his mother told him to not ask his dad for anything, toys, a hug, to play outside with him. He couldn't ask Dad for nothing. But his favorite side of his father is the one on TV. The hero who was happy, who was smiling, who didn't hurt, but saved. Too bad Izuku will never see that side at home. He never hated his dad as a little kid. He always thought that maybe hero work had gotten to his head. Maybe he was just frustrated or sad or angry. His mother always used that to describe his father. Sad. His mother always seemed much sadder than he was. But he was always able to cheer her up. It never lasted long though, 'cause Dad would come in the house afterwards. Now he trudged to school, an obvious bruise on his face that his mother had patched up. It didn't help that Katsuki always beat him up. Hey useless dude, what the F is wrong with your face? Bakugo pokes the bandage on his cheek and withdraws his finger when Izuku gave out a high-pitched squeal. It's better to hurt than to hurt others. What would he say if he saw that you got all beat up? Wouldn't he say that you couldn't be a hero? He already does that. I fell. On your face. The kid with the red demon wings wobbled over with his chubby cheeks and cruel, wide wings. Why? I tripped down the stairs. Whatever, Katsuki snarls, stomping away with that demon kid and the other kid with long butt fingers. He wouldn't carry their way. Of course he wouldn't. I'm so sick of this food. Give me some decent food. His father hollers, and Izuku is crying on the staircase with shattered glass on his face. It was a blink of a moment before he saw a plate being thrown his way. It wasn't even enough time to dodge it. Only Izuku was hurt, for he got in between his father and mother by saying it wasn't her fault that he didn't enjoy her food. Izuku looked in the mirror, his vision was blurry. Out of his right eye, it was red. Bloody red. His left eye, he became a little clearer. He looks at the blood trickle down his freckled cheeks, the glass shards were in his hair, and little ones on his cheeks. He wanted to cry, but the tears just weren't coming out anymore. Izuku trembles as he passes by. An hour passes, it was silent. No yelling, no whispers, no screaming. Where's his mom? The dried up blood had eye glued shut, every step he took, it was a wobble. His mother comes in his room with a bag. It was his All Might bag he used when he spent the night at Kaken's house. She packed up some clothes for him. It was silent. They didn't want to get caught by Dad. It could be worse than it already is. After she was finished packing clothes, she silently walked Izuku to the bathroom and did her best to clean him up. She scrubbed the blood off his face and got most of the shards out his hair. She wrapped him up in bandages before handing him his bag and picking him up. They peeked around the corner, then quickly darted to the door, then to the car. "I'm going to go visit my parents overnight. You stay with your auntie and uncle, okay?" She hums sadly, kissing his forehead and quickly ushering herself away, and drove off. He rings the doorbell, and Mitsuki opens the door after yelling at her son to do it. She looks obviously distressed with something and isn't too glad about a visitor. Her face goes from angry to soft, then to angry again after realizing the harm inflicted on Izuku. He is laid down on a bed, and he feels the pain on his face as the shattered glass is taken out of it, and Masaru is asking him what happened. He only groans, and Katsuki yells something, but his voice is caught in his throat as he spots Izuku's resting form. "Inko, where the hell are you?" Mitsuki yells into the phone, and Inko winces on the other end. "I'm sorry, I had to bring him to your house. He was hurting me again and his tiny body tried to dash." "And I mean he's hurting you again?" "My parents aren't convinced. He should be in jail for domestic violence. I'll kill him." They're both crying silently. Izuku has been bandaged up with fresh bandages and is now resting on Katsuki's bed as Katsuki sleeps on a mattress next to him, but he doesn't care, only watches Izuku as his chest heaves in and out as he slowly breathes. "Dad, what happened to Deku?" He hops down the stairs, watching his constipated father look up multiple things. "You're not old enough to know, honey. Go back to sleep." Katsuki knows full well what had went down. Inko is back the next morning, picking up Izuku and going back to their house. Izuku cried when his mom said where they were going. "I don't want to go back, Mommy," he cried in the car. Inko turned around and gave him a sad smile. "Maybe when you're old enough we don't have to," Izuku sniffles. "When I become big, I'm going to save you, Mommy." Inko smiled as she turned around and puts the car in drive. "I can't wait until then." The CYCL keeps on happening. He's 9 years old now, his eyes are already dull and the life in them only spark when his mother is somewhat happy, but he hates his father. He hates him with every inch and ounce of his soul. He's glad now, because his mother looks clean and healthy while he looks beaten down and dead inside with his pale skin, dull eyes and permanent frown. He smiles for his mother, though, but it only makes her cry more. His father called his mother overweight. Izuku tries to fight him, but is stabbed in the shoulder with a broken beer bottle. He hates this. He hates him. It's another one of those nights where his father is drunk and screaming at his mother about how she needs to go to the gym more. Screaming at her because her food is shit. He heard glass shattering and a table breaking. Theofanji hates him. He wants him dead. Where is a villain when you need one? This is all he thinks as he grabs the wine bottle his father is drinking, and it is only half full as he smashes it into his father's head, where the liquid mixes with blood and makes an almost satisfying color as it drains onto the floor as his useless father falls down. He looks to his mother, who is still frozen in shock. He checks his heartbeat, but there is none, only the sound of the blood and wine seeping into the carpet. His mother's hands are on his shoulders, and she shakes him back and forth. "Run away, Izuku. Please come visit me if you can. I will blame this on a thief. Be safe." Those words break his heart. "I love you," is all he manages to croak out, tears flowing down his face as he pulls his mother into an embrace. "I love you too, sweetie." She sniffles, and he is off with nothing, with no one. He has one person in mind. "Ah, Izuku-kun. It's been a while, hasn't it?" "Shut up, Tamura." The man only laughs and he puts his hands up in mock defeat, then saluting with a mischievous grin on his face. "What brings you here?" Kurojiri asked, cleaning some bottles. "I killed my dad," he bit, resting his head against the cold wood of the table. "Good for you. About time. Stop making it seem so easy. My mom told me to run away. That she'd blame it on a burglar. Your mother seems like a good person." "She is," he fondly remembers, staring at the wall ahead of him. You know you can always live with us, you're always welcome here. Kurojairi continues to do his work, and Shigaraki turns on the TV. Hiro Hisashi, known as Fireblower, has been killed. But your villains? Izuku tilts his head, making Tamura chuckle. If you didn't clean your evidence, so are you. Izuku goes pale. Fingerprints on the bottle, it caught up to him. Never mind that, us being villains doesn't mean anything. You just live here if you want to. You're our close friend after all. Would you really let me? Izuku's eyes did something that they haven't done in a while. Sparkle. Sparkle in hope. You can't be recognized if you want to lead a peaceful life. But? Shut up, Tamura. Kurojairi hisses and Tamura pouts and goes back to the TV. This is indeed a sad day for humanity. He's 11 years old. He hasn't dyed his hair, he hasn't changed anything really. His mother lives with the Bakugas now, and he sends her letters, hoping she is okay. She asks him how he found a home, and he told her he bunked with some friends who thought she was a sweet person. They never really spoke about that day. He wonders how Kaken's classes are. Probably easier than his. He's learning things Kaken would learn the next year, so his tiny brain can't process all this big kid stuff, as Tamura says. Kurojairi is an extremely strict teacher. He isn't allowed to leave until he's perfectly understood everything. Then the TV turns on. 150 plus killed in a hero versus hero public fight. Effect from Sidekick. Thunderstorm caused lightning to strike down on a famous shopping district. 310 plus injured. Izuku frowned. Number 1 hero All Might comes in later on the fight, saves 500 plus people from getting killed. He should have come sooner. Izuku and Kurojairi say it at the same time and look at each other suddenly, and maybe Kurojairi is smiling, you never really know. He doesn't have eyebrows either, so it really is difficult to tell. He doesn't like heroes. Heroes are fake. Villains are just trying to fix what they made wrong in the world. But why are they called the villains? Who gets to decide? Izuku's room was covered in plants and fairy lights. The aroma was pleasing and his bookshelves were filled with manga and fantasy books, but also the studying books Kurojairi had gotten for him. How nice. He waddles over to where Kuro and Tamura are watching the daily news, and sits next to them, and they turn their head to him before going back to watching the screen, Tamura chugging some Coca-Cola, while Kurojairi sat down in his seat. He takes in a deep breath. I want to be a villain. Tamura spits out his drink and Kurojairi's yellow eyes widen in surprise, about as wide as a shadow/mist monster's eyes can get. Tamura smiles, despite the cola dripping down his chin, and extends his hand to shake Izuku's. Welcome to the League of Villains. The night Auntie Inko came to the Bakuga household without Izuku confused Katsuki. Why did she not bring Izuku this time? Izuku always comes with her. It didn't take long for him to connect the dots, and when he finally did, he growled and walked around his room, trying to contain his anger. Deku Fanji ran away. He looked in the mirror, only to see Izuku's innocent form grinning at him like a Fanj idiot. He punches the mirror, causing glass to shatter everywhere, and his knuckles started to bleed. Katsuki hid behind the wall and listened to the conversation of the adults. Inko, are you okay? Any bruises? His mother asked the short woman. Just a cut on my arm, but it isn't big, she answered. He heard her ruffle up her sleeve to show her. Where's Izuku? His mother asked. She was concerned. She was on the same page Katsuki was on. He ran away. That I woke up and saw a letter on the bed. When ripped up to keep Hitachi from finding out, then I heard Hitachi scream. I ran downstairs and saw him dead on the ground. The room was silent before he heard his mom only clap her hands together. You're finally FNG free. He heard the TV click on to reveal the news. He heard Miss Inko's voice on the TV. It sounded like she was crying. Katsuki walked back to his room. Why is he so angry? It's just shitty Deku. He would remind himself. Deku would never leave so suddenly, he mumbled to himself. Without showing sign of it anyways. Katsuki was in deep thought about this situation. Deep until he became tired. He laid on his bed angrily. Shitty Deku, he'll pay. He muttered as he fell asleep, clenching the pillow he held so tightly onto. Over the past 2 years, Miss Inko has been getting a lot of mail. Every day she would have mail from someone named BR. When he asked who BR was, her face turned into a frown and looked like she was going to cry. So he never asked her again. He watched her deliver the letters to this BR person. He would walk to school, feeling like he was followed. But ignored the feeling. He seen the shadow of a person with a bunny-eared hoodie. But each time he turned around, nothing. Nothing was there. Well, that's not anything suspicious at all. Izuku, meet Dabi and Himiko Toga, they're around your age. Kurojirai introduced them, and Izuku had just dried his hair and thrown on one of his signature hoodies and sweatpants, and lifted his hand a bit in acknowledgement. Hi. He greeted, grinning a bit. Really? First a Fisco Beach and now a 2-year-old? Do you guys really have no decent recruits? Says the emo man trying to get recruited. Deku laughed, and Dabi just glares at him, then turns to Kurojirai for an explanation. He's our strategist. No need to be so edgy if you're the same age as him trying to get in the league. Shigaraki defended his friend, surprising them that he hadn't thrown a tantrum yet. He's cute. Himiko squealed, bouncing over to Deku and pinching his cheek. Deku blushed a bit when she pinched his cheeks. He's never been so close to an actual female. A female that thinks he cute gives him more nerves. Let's see that I'll call you D-kun. Dabi scoffed at Himiko and shoved his hands in his pocket. That's stupid, why would we do that? Toga pouted at Izuku's response. Don't you think it'd be funny? Turning into you and them up a bit, huh? Toga eagerly burst out, making an exaggerated boom movement with her hands. You just want my blood, you effing. Izuku groaned, causing Toga to growl. Nobody needs your blood. I just want to mess with the heroes. No. Toga only smiled wider. Oh well, I tried. Where's Dabi-chan? Dabi-chan. Izuku laughed, causing Toga to join them, and they were like that for a good minute before wiping the tears from their eyes. It was true that Dabi was a bit older than them, and he was skilled, but to respect Dabi wasn't something that they ever thought the other would be doing. Dabi was bold, brash, cunning, and an a-hole, probably the worst things in a person. But Izuku have seen worst. The other worst thing was he was hot. Which just wasn't fair, Izuku thinks, at least. Every time he looked at Dabi, his face always got tinted with blush. But Izuku always shook it off and thought of something else. Toga in no way finds those purple stitches and rude but comments endearing, but he's her friend, so she's allowed to call him a Barney emo love child. They were just walking around, the only people not allowed to recognize them were heroes of any sorts, for their villainy, but also because they might recognize Deku, or the Bakugas, and that was pretty much it. I don't know. Izuku has killed someone, and surprisingly he didn't regret it. Also, his mother found out about him being a villain from the news, though it never showed his hair or face. I recognize the freckles on your hands, Inko warmly reasoned, causing Izuku to basically cry for a fairly long week. Even in a letter, he felt the hurt in her voice while reading it. Yuuei losers. They turned their head to see Dabi with an out-of-character grin on his face, and he strided to them with his hands in his pockets. You're smiling. What happened? Can't I just smile because I'm happy? Tamura got captured, didn't he? Dabi shrugged with a satisfied hum. Maybe or maybe not. I don't want to get him, Toga whined dramatically, draping herself over Deku, who simply laughed at her sorrow. He's always so mean and always beats me in Mario Kart. He's a pro at Mario Kart, you know. Deku huffed, making Toga scrunch her eyebrows even more. Well, he doesn't have to gloat so damn much. He acts like he's won an Oscar. When do we have to get him? Tonight. Ugh. Izuku groaned, letting Toga lean on him, while he leaned on Dabi, who looked constipated and honestly really angry. Those stupid pro-heroes better not show up. So, Karma decided to be a beach and the pro-heroes showed up, though Shigaraki looked pretty comfortable. He could have gotten out the whole time, he just decided not to. You fapping shitty piece of trash. Izuku yelled at Shigaraki, but he didn't look intimidating at all with a rabbit mask with whiskers and a narrow face. Shigaraki always managed to put himself in these situations and expected them to save him. I'm so flattered, Shigaraki laughed, bidding them a little wave that indicated a bye-bye. They shouldn't have gone after his crusty butt. Despite them being one big family, including twice as well, they had their moments where they let each other be captured, but the trio of assholes would never forgive Shigaraki for the things that were in store for them as they put their arms up in defeat. They were led away from the police, Toga being extremely photogenic, while Izuku and Dabi kept on muttering to each other about how they planned on killing Shigaraki when they got back. Of course, the mask of the infamous villain, Rabbit, was not taken off on the scene, but was taken off once they got to the police office, managing to get away from the crowd. They took off the mask roughly, causing Izuku to wince in pain. Their hands were tied behind their backs, Toga even going as far as saying, "Kanun," when they did, making Dabi and Izuku avert their attention from her. A few gasps were heard, Izuku instantly recognizing Eraserhead, Present Mike, and the famous Principal Nedzu standing near them. He heard mutters in the crowd. "That's the boy who went missing. Hitashi's son?" He appeared under the villain's side. What a shame. Also, a deflated Banana Man was also in a great deal of shock when his face was revealed. He wonders why. So, are we supposed to get a death sentence now? Prison for life? What? You're the boy. The Banana Man spoke, making Izuku raise an eyebrow in question. The boy isn't very descriptive, old man. You're the boy who got lost. All those years ago. Lost? Right. I didn't go missing. I left. He states again, waiting for someone to do something, even sneaking a glance at his useless friends for some advice or some way to continue the conversation. We'll look more into this. For now, you won't be safe at any prison, since we still need to look into your case. Aizawa explains, and they are led away, under the noses of the public, but away from the flashing lights and constant questions. You're going to be held in Yuuei, for now, since we all work there. Misbehave and you'll be put back in your spot. Aizawa sneered, and then they are shoved into a police car and taken to Yuuei, where the first day of school had started. The students were gone. We can't surprise Kakinen. How sad. I hope you had enough sleep, the Rat Bear Man laughs, and then they are interrogated and take blood tests and stupid stuff. None of them are very comfortable, because they planned on being thrown in jail and out the next morning, not for them to be stuck in some stupid school with heroes. Then, Recovery Girl takes them in, but they don't sleep, instead just sit there, talking to each other or staring at the ground, or playing on their phones. They managed to keep their things they kept away, but sadly, Toga was the only one without headphones, but she didn't complain about it for once. Recovery Girl yells at them to go to sleep, so they turn off their devices and face the wall, thinking about the day. They wake up especially early on instinct. Then they rush out and the memories of the night before all came flooding back to them. The cameras. The flashing. The questions. The blood test. And they submitted to all of them, Toga and Dabi not really caring since it didn't really affect their families, since they either left or don't have any family left. However, Deku was terrified when they were forced back in the room and stayed there, hearing the students walk on by to the huge assembly being held, for some reason. Then they are taken backstage. This better not be what he thinks it is. Hello, young listeners. We have some amazing news. This better not be what he thinks it is. Last night, we managed to catch 3 villains, all near your age. This better not be what he thinks it is. And they will be joining your classes, so please welcome them. Present Mike bellowed, and everyone erupted into screams and yells as the curtains are withdrawn and Izuku's eyes try to adjust against the light, squinting as he tries to cover his eyes with his hand. Toga, on the other hand, looked pleased that they caused such a disturbance, and Dabi looks surprised as well. The hero students are screaming about how annoying and terrible the villains are for going to their school. What the F dash? Why the hell are we going here? Dabi yelled at Izuku, which silenced half of the crowd. You're asking me? You're the one that made us go save Faparaki. Toga snickered at the nickname. You're the one. Who wrote the wrong passcode? They changed it UFE dash. Settle down, kids. Nedza grinned as he sees that the two are basically at each other's throats. Aren't you glad that you get to go to a hero school? You get to be in a rehab, basically. Also, don't step out of line, or you'll regret it. The bear man laughs and they stop their actions, obviously scared of him. Aizawa, you're responsible. You won't mind accepting this emo, psycho, and angry child into your classroom. It's more of a statement than a question, so he just nods, looking distraught as he watches Izuku and Dabi yell over who gets dibs on the Xbox when they get back, and Toga says that she called dibs last week. This is a FING nightmare. School dorms is a word that echoes through Toga's head all day as she carelessly strides next to Izuku with her quirk-deflecting cuffs, but Izuku managed to take his off, so she tries to as well, but without succeeding, of course. Dabi just wears his without saying anything, and they are being shown around now. Apparently, Toga is the one with the highest killing rate, Izuku right below her. Dabi never committed flashy crimes, sort of just chilled in the darkness. Twice was pretty terrifying too, but if you got to know him, he was just a dork in a big body. So, Toga's cuffs were special, she couldn't take them off unless she was in hero practice, which just wasn't fair. She wants to throw a tantrum and start crying and screaming, but then she remembers Tamura and how he got them in this mess, and refrains herself from causing a scene. They are taken into the 1A classroom, where the students are gathered, talking about them, obviously. Bakugo Katsuki. They met eyes and they both stumbled back when they caught sight of each other, Bakugo stumbling to keep his posture, and Izuku fell into Dabi's arms, who looked uninterested in the heroes who stared at them. Toga was smiling big and wide, though, sending shivers through the heroes in training spines. As you saw in the assembly, these are the new students that are going to be in this class. Now please, introduce yourselves. Aizawa looked at the three villains at the front of the class. It gave Izuku nerves to be facing the front of the class, with Bakugo in it. He wonders if he still acts the same. I'm Toga Himiko. Toga cheered, jumping up and down. I hope we can be best friends. Dabi, he said flatly, don't ask questions about my real name. The girls in the class slightly sigh in a dreamy at Dabi's mysterious manner. It almost made Izuku sigh dreamily too. The class looked at Izuku for him to present his name. He became nervous. Dabi nudged him to say his name, giving him a comforting look. I'm Izuku Midoriya, he finally said, making the class gasp lightly. Whispers filled the air. Midoriya? As in Hitachi Midoriya? He looks just like him. Why would a son of hero run away from such a appealing life? A appealing life. Glass shattered in Izuku's head when he heard those very words spoken. He heard his mother's screams, his crying, and his father's yelling. Only if they knew. Only if they knew what a villain Hitachi was. Only if they knew what happened behind closed doors. If heroes are heroes, why didn't he get saved? It didn't make sense to Izuku. Heroes are supposed to save people from getting hurt. Why did the hero only hurt him? Izuku snapped out of thought and looked up towards the voice. It was Himiko. All right, you three, you can take a seat there, or there. Aizawa pointed to 3 seats. One near a boy with a bold cut and glasses, one near a purple-haired boy with baggy eyes, and one near. Izuku looked up to see the last seat. It was near Katsuki. Chapter text. Katsuki was walking to school that morning. He looked angry. But then again, it's Katsuki, he's always angry. But this time he had a reason to be angry. Today was the anniversary of stupid Deku being missing. And frankly, he didn't want to be bothered by any human being. Too bad he has a-hole friends that don't give any sheets. Hey Baku bro. Katsuki groaned at that nickname, given to him by the one and only, Ijiro Kirishima. Katsuki didn't reply. He kept walking. He could hear Ijiro huff and started to run to catch up to him. Katsuki tried to walk faster, but he caught up to him. Hey! The spiky boy whined and leaned on Blonde's shoulder. Why are you ignoring me today? Did I do something? Ijiro shouted, making Katsuki's eye twitch in annoyance. I don't want to be bothered today. Katsuki grunted out and yanked out of his touch. It made him frown. You always say that. Well, I mean it this time. He shouted at Ijiro, making Ijiro feel a bang in his heart. What's wrong with you this time, Bakugo? He asked, making Katsuki stop in his footsteps. Katsuki growled, flashes of Deku in his mind. The image of him sneaking out of the house and never to be seen again made him sad. He felt his hands heat up. He took out his hands out of his pockets and listened to the explosions. I don't want to talk about it. Ijiro, being the good friend he is, purses his lips and stops talking, surprised that Bakugo didn't attack him as his friend's arms fall limp to his sides and he continues walking, looking constipated and sad at the same time. Izuku was forced to be sat near Bakugo, who looked unguarded and shocked, his eyes widening and his mouth gaping, surprised at the sight before him. He wasn't sure if he even wanted to be seated near him. Izuku wasn't scared of him, of course. He was just nervous of his reaction, that's all. What the foo dash? Watch it, Bakugo. Aizawa sneered, knowing fully well that the boy would try to start a fight. He placed Bakugo with Izuku, since the angry boy never found anyone as his equal, so he thought a skilled villain would make him feel as if he had a worthy opponent. However, he got the opposite reaction. You shitty You decide to leave for 4 shitty years and expect everything to go F perfectly, you useless piece of dash. Aizawa silenced him with his scarf, glaring at him as he reluctantly sat down, tiny explosions erupting from his palms. Toga was sat near a boy with bags under his eyes and wild blue/purple hair that made it look like gravity was against it. Hi. I'm Toga Himiko. She grinned happily, basically bouncing in excitement on her chair. He lifted an eyebrow as if deciding on what to do. He decides not to do whatever he was going to, and just mutters something, as if he were expecting her to get that. Her smile doesn't disappear, only widens. What's your name? Shinso Hitoshi. That's a nice name. She giggles. What's your quirk? That's a secret. No fair. I wanna know. He smiles slightly at her actions. If only she knew. While she was having a great time, Dabi was being interrogated by same tall dude with weird hand movements and being stared at by a bunch of girls. Does he look bad in the uniform? Well, he never used the tie properly. Izuku looks very distressed. Dabi raises an eyebrow at his friend who was being stared down by a blonde guy that was caught by the slime villain a little while ago. The bell rings, but they don't know where to go, but as if on cue, Present Mike basically slides in the classroom, beckoning, more like screaming at, the villains to take them to their next class. They won't cooperate. A teacher yells, her quirk blooming as spikes shot out of her skin, making everyone move away from her. They always make some stupid but comments. Then fight them, Aizawa states plainly. They're just kids. Well, if they're kids at their skill level, then what the F am I? She yelled, stomping on someone's paperwork that they dropped, making them cry out in despair. Aizawa was now officially set off, but ignored her and went to his class, that would mix his homeroom class with the villains. Apparently, they were replacing science with getting to know the villains and making them less of a bunch of beaches class. The 1A class was terrified, the Baku squad trying to crack up some jokes to calm down everyone's nerves. But when they got there, the villains were there first, not paying attention to them arriving. Everyone held their breath as Aizawa made them go to the front of the classroom, Dabi making a face that made it look like he thought that moving at all was the most unfortunate thing ever. Toga spoke first. Huo. Dabi elbowed her head, making her stumble down, Izuku on the verge of breaking into tears at the show unraveling in front of him. I guess I'll talk for them. Aizawa growls, whacking Izuku and Dabi on the back of their heads, making them wince in pain and rub the spot where he hit them. I didn't even do anything. Aizawa just shrugs and talks for them. You know their names. We have no information of living relatives for Dabi or Toga. A mutter of, bet they killed them, was sounded and then a loud, whack, and a hush. But we have some for Izuku. He has a mother who he seems to have been in contact with ever since he left, who lives with their family friends when her husband died. Izuku doesn't realize that he put on a tiny smile at the thought of his dead, abusive father. Everyone shivers at him. She lives with the Bakugus. Everyone w's their heads to stare at Bakugo, who merely looks unsurprised. We're going to send in a pro-hero that reads minds and memories to see if we're missing anything. Toga and Dabi look distraught at what might happen to Izuku. You can't do that. Dabi finally growls, making everyone sit up straight again, their eyes blown wide open. Why not? Aizawa dares, his eyes narrowed and his mouth twisted into a snarl. Dabi glances at Izuku, who looks nervous and scared as hell, playing with his sleeves and muttering something. I can't tell him. So he stays silent, placing a hand on Izuku's shoulder, who looks at him with defeat in his eyes. Toga looks angry and constipated, her eyes twitching. Izuku looks at her with his eyebrows raised, indicating that she shouldn't start a fight if she wants to live to see tomorrow, so she calms down with a creepy but smile on her face. So it's confirmed then, Aizawa mutters, thinking that it was just some stupid villain hangout threatening to be exposed. Before you move into the dorms, you're going to be tested. They look unhappy but not particularly willing to kill anyone at the current moment, so they sit back down, and Toga falls asleep immediately. Izuku's head snaps up, gasping, and everyone turns around to face him in shock. My classes? Ida looks surprised. Classes? With Kurogyri? You're worried about that now? Nerd. Dabi snickers, and Izuku sits back down in defeat when he finally processed their situation. You went with us too, Izuku hums, and Dabi shrugs in agreement. Wait, we need to study and know stuff? Toga looks like a mess, her hair in tangles and her sharp eyes widened. I thought we were going to jail after this. I wish, Izuku mutters, glaring at Dabi, entirely blaming it on him. Too bad he couldn't kill him, because he was his friend. And because he was hot. He couldn't forget that. Then, they went to their classes where they were silent and obedient simply because of the pity put on Izuku, for he didn't want his memories or thoughts to be shown, but there was nothing they could do about it. Bakugo, on the other hand, was furious, and attempted to run up to Izuku and talk to him. You don't have to act so mad, Izuku whispers. I contacted my mom and she told me to run away. Aren't you glad I left? Izuku laughed, but it sounded so fake that Bakugo's heart broke right on the spot. No, his mouth moves faster than his brain does, spilling the words to his former friend, who gazes at him in sorrow and walks away. Bakugo wants to yell. He wants to scream. He wants to beat his villain but forever leaving them. But he had to do it to keep his mother safe. Which made him even more angry. Today was supposed to be his anniversary, but he came back. His mother must be so happy. It was surprising that they moved into the dorm straight away, as crime rates increased and the students had to be kept safe. Katsuki didn't find anything safe about being stuck with shitty hair and electric CNT all day, having them pester him and not leave him the F alone. Everyone is bustling around, trying to make things comfortable for the new students, but the Baku squad decided to put pranks everywhere, in which Ida demanded they put away, but they got loose with some of them and succeeded. Then, some of them went to the memory reading thing, because they were oh so excited to see some of the villain's secrets spilled. My quirk is that I can read your memories and put it on a large screen for the heroes to see, okay? It's honestly only going to be the major events in your life that made you feel a certain way. This very kind, buff guy that has a sweet smile chirps to him. You know, being a villain isn't the right path. I'm sorry, you might be uncomfortable with having the heroes see this. This softens Izuku's heart, so he just numbly nods, his fear being dulled away and replaced with an emptiness in his heart he felt when he felt that he was losing himself a long, long time ago. Dabi and Toga have quirk-deflecting cuffs on, Toga watching in sadness and Dabi glares at the ground, biting his lip. We're captured because I was so weak. Now Izuku has to go through this. Aizawa, Toshinori and Nedzu and the buff dude watch on in horror as the screen plays in front of them. Mama, why is Dad so mean? Izuku asks, his tears dried on his cheeks as his mother holds him close while sobbing, the liquid dripping onto the ground. She doesn't answer, only hugs his bruised and bloody body tighter, never uttering a single word, just incoherent nonsense after her so-called husband left the house. Izuku has so many bandages for a 6-year-old. Too many bruises, too many scars. A montage goes on of how many times Izuku has jumped between his parents to save his mother from the torture of being in pain. But she still was in pain, watching her only son taking knives and beer bottles for her, since he was 4 years old. Time skips to a few hours later, where Katsuki doesn't beat Izuku up for once, just letting his minions do it. It seems that Izuku's eyes are dull, he had been crying too much and didn't have any more tears to satisfy Bakugo. His friends are confused. It's as if his pain tolerance got higher, so now Bakugo doesn't have the guts or the heart to ask him what happened. Now, Izuku is older and shatters his father's skull with a beer bottle, smelling the alcohol on his breath as he lets out one final huff and crumples to the ground. His mother rushes to him and tells him to run away, to flee and keep in contact with her. He goes to Tamura and Kurojiiri, who willingly take him in without telling him to be a villain. Then he reads the news about how perfect their family is and how heartbroken Midoriya Inko was that her husband was killed and son was kidnapped. She's happier, though, and he fixed it up for her. But why does he feel so broken? Dabi, Twice and Toga come, he continues to mail his mother, and he kills his first person. It's exciting. He's sadistic for feeling pleasure by murdering someone, someone who is terrible. Who he knows is a CNT and an abusive motherfucker, and that makes him so happy that he gets to see their tough form slither away and be replaced with a crying baby. He hates seeing the news that another innocent hero was killed, one that did it for money, one that had raped someone, one that abused their significant other. But he ended their reign, and in a week, they are forgotten. He dares to say that he is happy. But there is a hole in his heart where his love for heroes used to be. The heroes stare at Izuku, who has fallen asleep while they read his memories, and the buff dude stops using his quirk on him, attempting to wake the boy up. Dabi just slams the door open and picks him up and slings him over his shoulder. He weighs like a pack of grapes, and they walk away at that, Toga sticking her tongue out childishly, skipping away to the dorms. They already ended? Denki whined as he was about to leave for it, though he looked curious to see why the short villain was asleep and why the hot guy was carrying him. Yeah. Dabi said roughly. Do you have a couch or something? Is he heavy? Uraraka asks, and Toga peeps out from behind Dabi, scaring her. Nah, he weighs like a box of Cheez-Its. Is that the best comparison you can do? Shut the F up, last time you said a box of Ritz. Dabi sneers at her in response. Do you have anywhere to put him down at least? Uraraka squeaks. All right. The couch. She leads the way to their area that they boobay trapped, which was incredibly obvious as he saw the pail of water on top of the door. He wasn't going to push it any farther, and Toga noticed it too, so they just simply walked through. He could hear someone sigh in annoyance. The dorms were huge, but their area was only a simple portion in the huge, complex place. He throws Izuku on the couch. He says he threw him, but he gently put him down. He'll get mad if you call him out, and looks to the hero for rules, or explanations at least. Didn't Aizawa-sensei tell you anything? Yaoyorozu asks, and Dabi and Toga look upset at the memory, so Momo just explains it for them. You can't go outside without another hero or hero student. You have to pay for your own lunch, but I don't think you can dash. I'm not broke unlike you guys, just continue. Dabi snapped, and Momo blushed, for some unknown reason. Don't use your quirk if it is intended to harm someone else. Eat your meals 3 times a day dash. Momo was cut off by Toga emitting a loud groan. Now it's just him treating us like 5-year-olds. Get to the juicy stuff. Momo was disturbed. The juicy stuff? Yeah. Like when we're going to get back. Never. That's a joke, right? I hate this place. Toga squeaked, stretching out on the rather long and large couch. That sounds so sexual I don't know why. Momo laughed awkwardly. Do you seriously think that heroes are going to capture valuable villains and just send them back home to commit more crimes? Dabi laughs and Toga frowns with her arms crossed. Izuku used to snore, but his father got mad at him whenever he did, since he was disrupting his sleep, so he eventually made it a habit to sleep peacefully and quietly. The heroes walked in to greet them, but half the class almost squealed at how adorable Izuku looked while he was sleeping. He was on his side, arms resting in front of him and his eyes shut, his chest slowly heaving in and out. Even Dabi could admit that he looked cute. He wasn't going to say it, though. Mina poked his cheek and he stirred, but continued to sleep. Well, we're going shopping to get you new stuff. The school can pay. Momo smiles and Dabi glares at her, making her wince. I don't need anyone to pay for me. We have our own money. Really? Do you rob banks or something? Kaminari laughs, though sweat trickles down his forehead. They were surprisingly comfortable. No, they weren't. They were intimidated at first, but they saw their true form or something. They are still FNG terrified. He wishes that he could kill them. No. Not everybody needs to rob banks to get money, unlike you, who robs your mother's purse. Toga chides, watching as Kaminari spits the coke he was drinking everywhere, causing Ida to lecture them about being proper. Izuku wakes up and rubs his eyes since Kaminari literally spit all over him. He says sorry multiple times as an apology, and Izuku waves it off, too tired to care. He still looked visibly distressed, though, scared that the villains would kill him or something. Which they probably would if they were allowed to. Then, the heroes went shopping, some staying behind to watch the villains. The dorms were mostly for their safety and to keep the villains away from knowing eyes. The heroes who stayed behind were Momo, Kaminari, Kirishima, Shinso, and Katsuki. They didn't look enthusiastic at having to watch the villains, but did so nonetheless, Shinso having to watch Izuku just lay down and stare at a wall constantly. Momo watched Toga, who babbled on about something useless, but she listened anyways, bless her soul. Kirishima, Kaminari, and Bakugo watched Dabi, who did nothing but change the channels on the TV all the time. Izuku then listened to music absent-mindedly, closing his eyes and ignoring Shinso, hoping the older of the two, just be 14 days, would go away. Sadly, he did his job and watched him do nothing. Then, the heroes came back with a bunch of useless things, but they got the bedding and pillows anyways, and a study desk and lamp and stuff. Izuku had a fairly clean room, but Dabi decided to mess his room up immediately, just as Toga did. They planned on going to sabotage his room next, but he stopped them. The three really regretted going after Faparaki, since they were planning on attacking USJ when the students went there. They were totally on board with going, they wanted to go back. However, the hero students acted like they were going to stay with them for 3 pitiful years. Then, school rolls around again the next day and Izuku is called to the principal's office. Midoriya-kun, your mother is here to see you. Izuku's heart started to race. Not in fear, not in nervousness, but in happiness. And that didn't come around easy for him. Where is she? Izuku asked. He tried to hide the excitement in his voice. She's outside the gates with all might. We'll be watching you as you make your way there. Izuku nodded and bowed and left the office. Izuku walked through the halls. He was excited to see his mother after 4 years. As he made his way out the doors, he heard his mother's voice. Where is he? You promised me he'll be okay, Toshinori. Toshinori? Who the hell is Toshinori? He is okay, Inko promise. And how dare this Toshinori person call his mother by his first name? Who the hell do he think he is? And I told you. Please call me All Might while we are in the Yuuei. Wait a second. Is his mother? Izuku steps out from behind the brick wall he was behind. Mom. He finally said, drawing the attention away from the argument. Oh my Izuku. His mother ran over to him and hugs him tightly. Izuku cracked a small smile and hugged back. Mom, who is that? Izuku doesn't want to believe what he thinks. His mother and Toshinori looked at each other. Oh, Izuku, this is your soon-to-be stepfather? Stepfather? Izuku raised an eyebrow at the banana man. From earlier. All Might? The dots connected. Izuku narrowed his eyes and let go of his mother, who tried to grab his arm again. Then, Dabi and Toga rushed to his side, ignoring the substitute's yells at them to get back to class. Oh, it's the banana man. Dabi chided, watching as Toga protectively grabbed Izuku's arm. Inko looked hurt as she withdrew her attempt to comfort her son. He was in shock and looked betrayed. Ah, so you thought he was called the banana man too? Toga snickered, and Izuku was too angry to comprehend what was going on. Toshinori expected a more dramatic reaction, not just Izuku turning around and trying to walk away. Toga grabs his arm and literally made him do a 180, and he faces Inko and Toshinori again, pure disgust and sorrow written on his face. It wasn't supposed to be like this. Oh, are you Izuku's mom? It's nice to meet you. She gave a toothy grin, her sharp teeth sparkling in the sun. I'm Toga. Himiko Toga. Inko nodded sadly and Dabi whacked Izuku on the back of the head. He bowed with such an exaggeration that even Dabi widens his eyes. I'll be taking my leave now. There were so many things going on in his mind that he almost stumbled, so Toga had to keep a hand on his back to keep him from falling. Toshinori and Inko walked into Yuuei together, concerned for Izuku, who kept on mumbling incoherent nonsense. Inko waited in the office for lunchtime, and Izuku dragged himself to his next class, with Toshinori. He felt like it couldn't get any worse, but you'd be surprised at how he was called to the office again to talk it out with his mother. Izuku, can we talk about Dadesh? No, we can't. Izuku feels like AD, but he's so scared that his mother and him are going to be hurt again, so he shuts her out, walking back to the dorms alone. He figures that his mother lives with stupid Toshinori, the hero who never succeeded in finding him and the hero who never bothered to find out if Hitachi was abusive or not. The number one hero can't even do anything. Yo comrade, your mother's here again. Dabi kicked his door open. What a creative insult. Izuku was just casually bawling his eyes out on his bed, and this apparently caused Toga to come over too, both of them attempting to comfort him. They're surprisingly good at it. I don't want to see her, he whispered, the words spilling out of his mouth. He's gonna hurt her. He's just like Dad. He's gonna hurt her. They listen anyways, Dabi even pulling him into a hug, and Toga side hugging him, like a villain cuddle pile. Well, I mean, I cannot deny or approve of him hurting her. I'll just kill him. How can you kill All Might? Izuku pulls away from Dabi, seeing that he literally drenched Dabi's shirt with tears. Knife. Toga cackled, rolling on the floor. A knife. Izuku chuckled. Yeah, that's really creative dash. Shut the F up, you can do a lot of things with a knife, Dabi threatens, making Toga laugh even more. He's a hero. I hate heroes. Okay, get her to hate him or something. You could just win her over dash. Yeah, he's her son. Pretty sure she loves him over her second husband. Izuku goes quiet. Does she? Izuku realizes that he's still holding onto Dabi's arms and he lets go abruptly, falling backwards in the process and making his friends howl in laughter. The two leave his room and Inko enters his room, with Effing Toshinori right behind her. Yeah, okay, get out Banana Man. I'm making sure you're not going to hurt Dash. I'm her effing child, get out UCNT. Inko looks surprised at his choice of words, but nods to Toshinori, and he bows and leaves. Close the door. He complies and slowly shuts it, and his footsteps fade. Inko sits on his bed and he scoots away, a bit, still distraught. I know you're mad, sweetie. Izuku purses his lips. Here it comes. I'm sorry that you became a villain, and I know why, and it is understandable. I'm happy that you're okay. Here it comes. I still live with the Bakugus. I'm going to our old apartment to live with Toshinori. Here it comes. You probably want me to not marry him. Yeah, he breathed out, refusing to make eye contact with her. I'd do anything for you, sweetie. Please get to know him. If you think he's a danger to you and your friends, I'll stop being in contact with him and, you know. The guilt trip. There it is. Izuku frowns. Now he feels like Fang Hitler, being such a baby that his mother is willing to stop being in contact with someone who makes her happy after years of abuse just so her son can get what he wants. He was even engaged to her. I'm scared he's going to hurt you. Izuku said it softly and he could barely hear it, but her eyes fill with tears, and she hugs him, crying so much that Izuku's shirt is getting soggy. Izuku. Izuku hugs her back absent-mindedly, grinning softly as his mother sobs while clutching him tightly. Toshinori listened to the conversation, but immediately went back to sitting in the living room when the two villains passed by. The hero students were always watching the villain students. This time, Kaminari was watching them obviously, but they weren't going to tell him that. Toga turned around and grinned wildly at Kaminari, and attempted to make her way to him, but Dabi grabbed her by her sleeve and pulled her to wait outside their friend's room. Always watching Toshinori with suspicious eyes. The mother and child come out later on, Izuku somewhat softer and Dabi teased him about it, then Toga did, and Izuku attacked her, which Dabi had to pull them apart. So apparently now, Toshinori trusts Izuku a lot. He thinks he's some lost child and not some ruthless killer and he's allowed to go outside of Yuuei. Not by himself, mind you, But with the heroes, Dabi isn't that flashy of a murderer, so he can go out just like Izuku, as long as they have quirk-deflecting cuffs and microchips on them. For Toga, they went the extra step and she has a literal tag on her. She thinks they're treating her like livestock, and she's wearing quirk-deflecting cuffs as well as chips and a video camera hidden but always watching her moves. She was always screaming too, which honestly annoyed the pro-heroes watching her. In the dorms and at Yuuei, she only used quirk-deflecting cuffs. Less like a villain rehab and more like torture. Bakugo always found a way to pick a fight with Deku, who didn't really know what was going on 75% of the time. Also, one of the main reasons the heroes hated the villains were because they were smart. Toga acted stupid but caught up quickly, usually having an average of 85%-90% S on tests. Izuku and Dabi had higher scores, always competing. Toga was just glad she had a good GPA. Kaminari, Kirishima, Mina and others are brutally jealous of the villains for waltzing it without being in school for years and just knowing everything. Aizawa calls on them when he thinks they're not paying attention, and they usually get the right answer. Note, most of the time. Not always. But the worst thing ever was that their insults are collectively true and it hits them right in the heart. And then the stupid pro-heroes make them go shopping. Toga looked like a rabid animal with her cuffs and tag and microchip. She looked distraught, but happy that she was going to buy new clothes and get some snacks. You can't buy anything you want with the school's money, Ida stated, making her pout and droop her head like a kicked puppy. Upon seeing this, Deku acted. I'll pay for her. I get the money from working. Well, that answered all of his questions and Toga perked up again, hugging Deku. Dabi could pay for himself, but he felt like using his friend's money, so that's exactly what he did. Sadly, Toga left her money at her home, the hideout, but Deku and Dabi always had theirs with them. Then, Kurogiri called them on the bus to the mall. Everyone turned their heads to Deku, who fumbled with the phone and passed it to Dabi, not wanting to pick up to an angry Kurogiri. Hello Dash, you got caught? Are you stupid? It's not that hard to get Tamura out of jail, you pieces of Dash. Dabi immediately hung up on him and gave Deku's phone back, and Deku's eyes sparkled as he took it back. He stood up to Kurogiri. Then, Toga's phone starting ringing, and her ringtone played. My neck, my back, lick my pee-pee and my Dash. She picked up, not minding Ida's yells and her friends and the Baka squad's laughter. Hello. Oh my god Dash. Izuku was leaning on Dabi, cackling while tears threatened to spill from the lack of oxygen. Ida's face was a bright red, trying to get everyone to calm down, but everyone was either hiding their face because their virgin ears had to listen to such vulgar music, or they were laughing their butts off, on the verge of crying. Then, they arrived and hopped off, everyone around them not paying attention until the villains got off. People tried to take pictures or some just stared. Dabi would just send them nasty glares that made them fall over, but when Izuku did it, they made a face that looked like they were about to coo about an angry puppy. Toga scared them all the most, her wide, toothy grins and upbeat attitude in the most dangerous on situations. Once they entered, the atmosphere was quiet, but they probably heard the warnings that if anyone were to harm the villain children, would be sent to the police for further investigation. Toga feels important, more than she already feels ever since she joined the league, the civilians murmuring in their direction. A kid around Sachiko's age boldly made their way over before being stopped by his friend. You villains! The kid yelled, shaking his friend off of him and stomping over, his hands clenched into fists. He looks like he's losing oxygen as his face keeps on reddening when he holds his breath. Friendly reminder that you need to breathe to live. Deku made a snarky remark, feeling a burst of pride in his chest when the child looked scared, staring up at him. Do you need something? Toga giggled, literally slithering over to them and joining their conversation. Why you're not going to win? Heroes are the best. He stuttered out, immediately running to his friend afterwards. Dabi didn't listen but the other two did, turning their heads away to listen to what Uraraka was saying to Tsuyu. Then they went shopping wherever, unintendedly scaring everyone they batted an eyelash at, making them tremble and run away in fear. At least it wasn't crowded where they were. Then, at some ungodly point, the heroes lost the villains. Great. We got a sheet ton of clothes, huh? Toga snickered as they walked around aimlessly, looking for another store to waste their, Izuku's, money on. There's an adoption center right next to the mall. We can meet up with the heroes at the bus stop. Izuku remarked, and they immediately made their way to the exit. We could just escape. Sensei doesn't even have specific orders. He just wants us to suffer here as training, or something. Izuku answered, making Dabi pout and shove his hands in his pockets. You just want to look at the cats, you dirty fucker. Dabi growled as Toga and Deku play with the kittens. It's not our fault they're so cute. Toga squealed, watching the feline play with her shoelaces. A tiny tabby kitten with brown, black and white fur waddles up to Izuku. In the light, it shows to have only 3 legs, stumbling every now and then as it attempts to hop into Izuku's lap. 3, 2, 1. Ah! He falls in love with it. It looks fulfilled with the amount of attention it's getting as Izuku stops playing with the munchkin kitten and instead starts to pet him. I'm getting him. Are us villains even allowed pets? I'm getting him, Izuku says, in a firmer voice as he gets all the supplies needed to give the kitten a home. His reasoning is that Koda, how come he only ever remembers his name, has a bunny, so he gets to have a pet as well, right? Toga wanted a parrot, but Kuro didn't think she was responsible enough to even stay home alone, so she crossed her arms and glared at everyone passing by on the way back to the bus stop. Karma was sitting on Izuku's head. He's so small. Since he was potty trained, it was all right. He was soaking in the breeze. The bus was about to leave, and the bus driver gave Izuku an odd and judgmental look before driving. Where were you? Kaminari screeched. We looked for you for 10 hours. Oh, we lost you, then I got a cat. Izuku grinned, pure and wholeheartedly for once, and sat down next to Dabi. Kirishima cried at the adorable sight of Izuku and his kitten. Jiru sat behind them, tense but shocked at the badass murderer getting a tiny cat. Is it a he or a she? It's a he. I'm naming him Karma. Karma apparently approves since he mewed and cuddled up to Izuku. I'm going to sleep, but I don't want to put him in the cage. Can you hold him for me? Dabi is already asleep on Izuku's shoulder, so his first and only recommended option was gone. Toga was not to be trusted, so he passed it to Jiru. She squeaked in surprise as the kitten stared at her and curled up in her lap. You got a cat? Aizawa's pupils expand as the kitten rubbed against his leg, wobbling from the loss of, no, Midoriya got him. His name's Karma. Kirishima chuckled and Aizawa sighed. Oh well. The kitten spotted his owner making his way to get him, so he rushed to his side, climbing up, accidentally scratching his clothes and snoozing in his fluffy hair. Izuku painted a large tree on his green walls in his room. Since Sensei told him to stay anyways, he might as well make it fabulous, right? Karma just snored on his head as he hung up some fairy lights and paintings, putting some beloved plants on his bookshelf and desk. He had a large map of the world right next to his bed pinned on the wall, and a Rowlet Pokemon plush on his bed. The whole room smelled like a soft vanilla. Also had Karma's litter box all around the dorms and his bed in his room. Karma slept on his bed anyways. Toga was just a FING weirdo, her walls painted in dripping red, some posters of some K-pop bands and dramas on her walls. Her bed was a moderate beige, her desk brown, and the aroma of drags and flowers everywhere. Her curtains were also red, and she had a large cactus in the corner of her room that Izuku told her to get since she SED but at taking care of plants. Dabi was a flat-out emo, My Chemical Romance and 21 Pilots posters everywhere, and his walls were black. His curtains were gray and his desk and bed were white. He has a few post-it notes he got on Valentine's Day from his villain squad. You Esigi Shigaraki. You are a great person, Kurojiri. Haha hashtag furry, twice. I'm a cursed heterosexual, Toga. Eat D, Izuku. Kurojiri was causing a commotion every year by making them say nice things on post-it notes to each other, but his friends has them in their rooms too. In Izuku's room. Furry Pawn Shigaraki. So tell me what you really want, twice. I'll tell you what I really want, Toga. Have a nice day. I made everyone chocolate. Kurojiri. In Toga's room. My boy going to school. Fit up Kenneth. F it up, Izuku. 3 female Ghostbusters? The feminists are taking over. I'm an adult version this. Keep calm and eat dick, Shigaraki. I care about you. Keep the killing to a minimum, Kurogyri. Is this real life? Or is this a fantasy? Stuck in a landslide, no escape from reality. Open your eyes, take to the skies, and see. Meme Kiliid a Emin and Dabi. The heroes looked concerned as they checked out their rooms. Are you trying to summon Satan or something? What's with the post-it notes? Mina chirps. Izuku blinks slowly. Kurogyri wants us to write each other things on Valentine's Day. That was from last year. He looks at the ceiling in wonder. I'm pretty sure Kuro's messages are what keeps us going. Who's Kurogyri? She just wouldn't stop asking questions. The mom friend of the group. We're all alive because of him. What does he look like? A bunch of mist. Is he nice? Most of the time. Does he dash? Okay, shut up. Do you guys have an Xbox or anything? Mina grinned, smirking lazily. Of course we do. Play me at Mario Kart. Izuku laughed wholeheartedly and there was a glint in his eyes as he stood up, glaring at Mina who glared right on back. You're on. Damn it. What the hell? Mina shrieks as Izuku wins the 5th time in a row, cackling as Mina attempts to grab his controller. No fair. You're cheating. Izuku gasps. Watch your profanity. Mina takes the controller from him to see if it's hacked for him to win or anything. It's not hacked. Well, you're lucky you beat me this time. I played against you 5 times. I'm usually the god of Mario Kart. I'm sure someone in this class has defeated you. Mina creases her brow. That's why the teachers got so agitated with them. They always have a comeback. Dabi appeared suddenly behind Izuku, putting his chin on his friend's head as he leaned over. Mina squealed in surprise and fell over, never being this close to the hottest guy in one. BBY Kiri, you are the most appealing in canon. Gimme the controller. Mina obliges and passes it to him. He seemed normal, sort of intimidating, but he looked sort of. So, Mina then played Dabi and lost miserably, passing the controller to Deku, who looked very engulfed in the screen, cheering on Dabi for once. Mina let Dabi sit in her spot and then the tension was on. They started cursing each other out and screeching, knocking each other over. When was the last time you guys played Mario Kart? Mina teased, sitting on the farthest right as the 2 villains screeched at each other. Before we got caught? We always play it. Dabi sniggered, roaring in outrage as Deku threw a blue shell at him. Do you guys have GTA? Deku whined when Dabi stopped playing, nudging him with his head since he wasn't going to let go of the controller. Yeah, we have GTA. Finish this round and he already won. Nice. Deku babbled about how he was God tier and cheered over and over again about his victory. Dabi just let him, sighing as he put the GTA CD in and started playing. The Baku squad passed by and saw them hogging the Xbox on a Friday night, then raced over and demanded a turn. We didn't play all day. Kaminari snapped at Mina, but looked confused when she didn't have any of the controllers. He looked to the feet of the couch, where the 2 villains ran over a bunch of people. Jiru and Momo were chatting and strolled in, going silent at the villains playing video games. Toga had just taken a nap and went to find her friends, immediately hopping next to Deku and asking for the controller. He stuck her tongue out at her and she pouted, crossing her arms and looking away. Oh my god, run over the prostitute. I don't want to hurt her, she's just doing her job dash. Run over the prostitute. Toga exclaims, trying to steal the controller from her friend's hands. Dabi threw the controller behind him and Ciro claimed it, sitting on the couch in a crisscross applesauce position. Please help me, I don't know what that's really called. Toga took the controller and ran over a bunch of people and shot a bunch of them as well, but making sure to spare the dog and all the animals in the area. The group stayed like that for a little while before they had to be in bed, but it didn't end there. Of course it didn't. Kaminari added the villains to the group chat, since he somehow found their Instagrams. Pikachu added Deku, Kenneth and Dabi. Earjack. Kaminari, you dumbfuck. Earjack. Why did you add them? Pikachu? Why not? Earjack. They're villains. Oh, what's wrong with you? Kenneth. Earjack. I'm guessing that's Toga. Kenneth. Well, I mean, Kenneth, you never know. Ida, the villains have been added. Kenneth, who are you? Ida, the class president. Kenneth, and who is that? Ida, I have the speed quirk. Kenneth, wait. Kenneth changed Ida's name to Sonic. Kenneth, yes, good, now I will remember. Momo, is adding the villains a very bright idea? I don't think we should be anywhere near trusting them. Deku, uwo. Dabi, what's this? Momo changed Kenneth's name to Toga. Toga, I've been stripped of my identity. Deku, all I read was, I've been stripped. Toga, YNNOO. Ida, please go to sleep. There is a whole day ahead of you tomorrow. Dabi, what if I die in my sleep? Ida, that would be unfortunate. Dabi, that would be unfortunate. Dabi, oh, my mom died. That's a plot twist, how unfortunate. Deku, Arnsnasnich. Ida, please go to sleep. Ida, even Bakugu-kun has fallen asleep by now. Bakugu, shut up, glasses, I don't sleep this early, eyes only 8 p.m. Tape boy, do. Bakugu, hey. Shut your f. Deku, shut your f. Toga, this is so sad. An unfortunate turn of events. Deku, unfortunate. Ida, I am turning off the Wi-Fi. Deku, I have 4G peasant. Ida, good night. Dabi truly believes he hates the heroes when he FING steps outside the dorms on a weekend and his cuffs start beeping, and then the heroes are there, immediately. We said you can't go outside with or without the hero students without them telling us. Aizawa groans, still having bedhead, looking awfully agitated. I just wanted to get some fresh air. Dabi mutters, going back inside and plopping himself on the couch. Then 5 seconds after him, Izuku walks out the door. No beeping of the cuffs, nothing. How come his cuffs aren't beeping? Dabi asked, squinting his eyes at the man with the scarf around his neck. He isn't seen as a threat. But he does have consent watch over him. How is he not seen as a threat? He has a higher killing rate than me. He's seen as more trustworthy. You're too dangerous, like a dog on rabies. He's like an angry bunny. Dabi raises his eyes at the comparison but is completely okay with people seeing as Deku as an inferior rabbit, so he just takes it and goes back inside with his friend who teases him for being too dangerous. The heroes are still on guard with them, always watching them and never getting too comfortable. It was understandable after all. Toga was free and could dress in her comfy clothes. She had her hair down, she's actually really pretty, a moderate yellow sweater and pink shorts, crunching away on some takis and watching TV. Izuku takes some as he plops down next to her in his galaxy hoodie and black shorts. Unlike in those movies, Toga does not smell good, and in fact, smells like a sewer rat. Go take a bath. Izuku covers his nose and Toga grumbles an angry rude, and shoves her takis into her friend's hands and hops away to the bathroom. Shinso drags himself onto the couch and lays down, looking tired and frustrated. Hagakure slams the door open and hops on the couch. We're going to the laser tag arena. What's it called? She asks Shinso, and he just grumbles and shoves his face into a pillow. Laser tag arena. Dabi mutters as he puts Izuku in a headlock. Izuku chokes and attempts to get his friend's arm from off his neck, but he wouldn't budge. You are not allowed to hurt other students. Ida scolded, doing those weird, choppy hand movements. We're just bonding, Dabi chortled as he let go of Izuku, letting the boy breathe. Ida reluctantly left the room and Hagakure dragged Shinso to play Ouija board with Ojiro. Izuku then put Dabi in a headlock, and Dabi stopped fighting back and just went limp. Dude? You okay? Deku sounded genuinely concerned, but Dabi just sighed, wrapping his arms around Deku. I'm touch-starved. Let me have this. Deku laughed so hard he physically felt his heart skip a beat. Oh my god, that's so sad. He pulls Dabi into an embrace, but here's Toga coming, so he lets go. Toga walks in with her hair in a single bun, a white hoodie and green shorts. She was never good at matching, and a judgmental glint in her sharp eyes. Were you guys making out? Deku turns red. Oh my god, no dash. Laser tag was cancelled. We have to go weekly shopping. Momo tries to explain to a weeping Hagakure, patting her on the back. Who wants to watch the villains? Nobody replied. Can't they just come with us? Are you stupid? They could kill someone. They didn't at the mall. Then they won't now. Shinso shrugs, watching everyone look at each other with uncertainty. The villains stride in the room, on their way to their own. Toga with her computer, about to watch Wolf Children. Hold it, we have to go shopping. Kirishima laughs, getting Toga by the sleeve. She looks at him with unintended puppy eyes. Deku sighs. I can dress in this, right? Dress in what you want, I want to come back soon so I can catch my show. Tokoyami snorts. Deku is now in a-hole mode. Oh, is it about furries? Tokoyami starts stuttering, and that's how they find out that he's a FING furry. Next up, idiots go shopping and there is unresolved romantic tension between Deku and Dabi. Also Deku is cute. Are you diabetic or something? Don't get those. Deku scolded Toga, who was holding 3 boxes of sugar cookies. Yeah, but they're so good. Kurojiiri doesn't let me buy these often, you know, she protested, looking agitated when he put them back. Get something that you need to buy, dumph, Dabi dash. Dabi got out a Nerf gun and literally went at rapid fire, shooting Deku in the face. Toga laughed but was also attacked. Deku got tennis racket and started whacking Dabi with it. Now as a bystander, you would want to help someone who was being physically hurt by someone else in public. Except when you saw fully grown teens beating each other up with kid toys, your body would do a physical nope and F off into the other direction. Then Deku did the rest of the shopping, and he was said so Dabi just walked beside him while Toga chilled in the cart. The heroes found them later on, seeing that Dabi had a black eye, Toga had a scratch over her left eye and Deku had a bruise on his cheek. Shinso was apparently sick and didn't come, so with the loss of their newly made friend, all 3 of them were more moody than usual. Bakugo was angry all the time, but learned to calm down as he knew that it only benefited the villains if he got angry at every outburst. He was always glaring daggers at Izuku whenever he could, and Izuku and Toga were on either side of Dabi, falling asleep on his shoulders. How come they always find a way to sleep? Everyone found out that Izuku is a total weeb. He has figurines and posters of his favorite animes and mangas. He has a bunch of mangas and is obsessed with the concept of space. The heroes were playing Truth or Dare but didn't invite the villains, because if they did, they would turn the offer down with an insult and leave, but if they didn't invite them, they would eventually be drawn to the laughter and screams and join the game sooner or later. They always asked Toga to come because she always accepted, though literally everyone found her creepy and intimidating. Dabi walked in the room. What are you doing? Truth or Dare? Deku was rotated into the game from the loss of Dabi, who was being used as a human pillow before. Karma then waddles into the room, hissing at anyone other than Dabi, Deku or Toga that tries to pet him. He doesn't particularly hate or like Toga. Mostly just tolerates her. Loves the attention. Next. Dabi. Truth or Dare? Zero grinned. Dare. I have nothing. Toga. Toga grinned manically and got up. I dare all 3 of us to go watch a movie and not play this. Whenever Toga got bored, all 3 villains just left. The heroes collectively groaned and Toga and Dabi left to watch the movie, but Deku just sat on the couch, watching them. Fine then. Kaminari, Truth or Dare? Uraraka chirped, watching as he put on a blinding smile. Dare. Izuku hopped next to Uraraka. Kiss that guy over there. He pointed to Kirishima, who turned as red as his hair color. I'm sick of the unresolved SXL tension. Kaminari screeched. Hell no. Izuku frowned. If you don't, you have to pay me 2,000 yen. Kaminari slowly made his way over to Kirishima, his heart thumping in his chest. Izuku cooed as they pecked each other on the lips, then called for Dabi. I told you. Now pay up. Dabi sighed as he entered the room and paid his friend 5,000 FANG yen, then effed off into another room. Oh my god. Siro roared, watching as Izuku beamed. It's okay, Tfue coaxed as the 2 of them hid their faces in their hands, going beet red and turning away from each other. Class 1. Pikachu, hey, quick question. Pikachu, if you jacked off while smoking marijuana. Pikachu, what would that be called? Deku, weed whacking. Toga, hijacking duh. Dabi, jackin' and whacking. Deku, smoky whacker. Toga, Beetlejuicing? Earjack, I read this without context and let me just say that I am afraid. Ida, that is inappropriate to talk about. Ida, this chat room was made for purposes to talk about school or to have a friendly chat. Not to talk about the Toga, I want to get a snake. Deku, you already are one though. Toga, STFU. Toga, I want a pet snake. Dabi, pet yourself beach. Toga, W does everyone think I am a snake? Deku added Tamura, Kurojuri and twice to the chat. Ida, remove the villains immediately. Deku, guys is Toga a snake? Twice hit. Tamura, Kurojiri, why are you kids like this? Stop making fun of each other. Toga, exactly. Kurojiri, you are still a snake. Sir. Toga, I hate this FNG family. Pikachu, I told everyone drama is going on BC, the actual real villains are here. Bakugu, WTF get out pussies. Tamura, what if the word PP didn't exist? Tamura, would you just call other people Vgna or something? Deku has removed Tamura from the chat. Kurojiri, I would leave graciously, but I don't know how. Twice. Hee. Twice, I got MC Donald's. Twice, you broke beaches over there in you. Twice. Also happy face carrot, it's called master blazing. Kurojiri, you are grounded. Twice, not if I kill my SELF Fristar. Twice, Kedgstvatchsvats. Deku has removed twice from the chat. Kurojiri, how do I leave? Toga has removed Kurojiri from the chat. Scotch tape, W man we were too late. Scotch tape, that was funny though. Momo, Aizawa sensei will kill you 3. Dabi good. Dabi, I'm gonna take Faparaki's advice and call everyone of Gna from now on. Dabi, not as a degrading term. For the laughs no. Dabi, an affectionate term. Momo, please stop speaking. Deku, and affectionate term. Toga, you're like a Vgna to me. Deku, chkashtfaskjech. Momo has removed Deku, Dabi and Toga from the chat. Pikachu, lol rip. Deku has added themselves to the chat. Deku, bye bye, Felicia. Pikachu, beach W how. Deku has removed Momo from the chat. Deku, this is our territory now. Deku has added Toga and Dabi to the chat. Rock hard, oh my god, they have taken over. Pikachu, yo add you are villain friends again, I wanna talk to them. Ida, do not. Toga has removed Ida from the chat. Toga, our territory. Dabi added twice, Tamura and Kurojiri to the chat. Kurojiri, please don't, I don't know how to leave. Twice, yo. Tamura, OHFUCKU Dabi, I am playing Mario Kart, stop adding me. Uravity, Huo BBY. Uravity, WTF is wrong with you? Stop insulting people. Deku, beach how is gay an insult? Deku, if it was then I'd be degrading myself. Uravity, really? Do you go around saying, straight? Uravity, NOR Eoli. Tamura, it's annoying. Twice, you Izuku heard you got a cat. She's the best. Twice, I want to meet your mom too. Deku, you don't deserve to. Twice, understandable, have a good day. Kurojiri, there is a cat outside. Kurojiri, truly, good day. Twice, I'm bored. Deku, then die. Deku removed twice, Kurojiri and Tamura from the chat. Deku added Ida and Momo to the chat. Dekoops. Days pass quickly, and now they're going to the USJ. The villains are quiet, knowing that this is gonna happen. The hero students are chatting away, laughing and having a good time while the villains plan on leaving. They didn't bring anything, but Izuku is deeply saddened at having to leave Karma, and Jiraiya had to comfort him for 3 hours the day before. For what? She didn't know. She just hated seeing someone upset. Shut the F up, I can and will stand Jiraiya. They hop off, greeting 13 and going inside. Then, as if on cue, the villains arrive, and everyone turns to the villain students, who also put on a surprised face. "You never said you'd come for us." Toga grinned and tried hopping down the stairs. "No. It is dangerous," Ida yapped, taking her by her cuff and throwing her back. "He was really strong?" The villains got out, the ones who would be obliterated immediately first. Izuku yawned. "Ugh, I can kill all of them in a minute." He sneaks a glance at Aizawa, who glared at him, so he whipped his head back to look at the villains. Shigaraki then got out, all three of the villain students immediately flipping him off. Kaminari wheezed. "Why isn't All Might here?" He then spots the three of his friends and flips them off with both of his hands. "Stop being so immature," Kurogyri snapped, then went to trap the students. "Oh, if Kurogyri no dash." All three of the villain students were teleported to the ocean area with the frog girl. Toga yelped and her eyes widened as water went down her throat. Her father slapped her in the face, making her shriek in pain and stumble backwards. "Don't talk back to your mother," he barked, watching her try to escape from him. "I can't believe we had such a disappointment." Her mother scoffed, playing with her jewelry. Her brother came to her rescue. "Don't you have hero work, Pa?" "Ma, you're late for your advertisement." His father cursed and left, but his mother watched him with her sharp, daring eyes before spitting on the ground in front of Toga, making her writhe. "Nichan, I'm scared." Toga whimpered as she rocked herself back and forth. He nodded and pat her shoulder before going off to do his work. He was 9, the insults were mostly what happened, but sometimes they would hit them, and when her brother wasn't there to protect her, she just took it and wept afterwards. She wasn't allowed to cry while they hit her. "Stop crying, you baby." They would snap. They weren't the ones getting hurt, so why did they deserve to say that? Toga's brother would console her before sneaking to the kitchen to grab food for her. One day, she had turned 10 and her brother was 12, her father got drunk again. He beat up her brother right in front of her. After half an hour, his body went limp and her father took her to the park. She was too afraid to ask where her mother was. Instead, they went to a lake an hour drive away, and it was dark outside. She wasn't allowed to check the time. All the learning she ever got were from her brother's books. It was a prison. She watched as her father threatened her, a blur of words, before she was kicked into the lake. The water filled her mouth quickly, and she tried to make a sound, moving her arms around helplessly as she tried to move back up. She was so scared. Then, miraculously, she went back up to the surface herself. When she was taken back to the shore, blood stained the rocks, and she coughed up water for a few minutes before not knowing where she was. So she ran. She didn't know where she was going. Her parents didn't want her home. She didn't want to be home. She saw something on the news, her father, a hero, who pretended to look like a mess. It has pictures of her mother, brother, and her on the screen. Hero Bloodstain wrecked at the death of 2 children and wife. Wife killed at a club, son beaten to death by an assassin, and daughter drowned at a lake. We are investigating more. Nobody recognized her. Toga ran into an alleyway and sat down, breathing quickly in harsh breaths. "Are you okay?" She looks up to see a teenager with white hair, holding his hand out to help her up. She rubs her eyes and nods, getting up. "Kurogyri. I found someone. She's hurt." "Then bring her? Get the first aid kit." Toga lived by herself. She thanked the 2 people and found out how to survive by herself. She sees the news and realizes that her father has remarried with an appealing woman and she is expecting another child. She finds his new location. It's nighttime, and she silently takes a veil of the wife's blood and turns into her. She looks at the woman, PRDNT, with another child. Someone who, maybe isn't as bad as her father. She would be related to that child. Her father wakes up and stares at her. She kills him, a blow to the neck, cutting his head off, making it roll onto the floor. The wife wakes up and screams. She thinks about whether or not she should kill the woman, but she is holding onto her belly protectively, so she jumps out the window and turns back when she goes into the nearest ally. It's on the news the next day. Toga coughs up water when she comes to be, Tsuyu looking at her with a worried expression and Dabi and Izuku casually playing chopsticks. "Oh, she's back. I lost a few years off of my life, ribbit." Tsuyu purred, watching as Toga quietly thanked her and got back up. I'm still set at Shigaraki. Let's go find him and kill him. Dabi snorts, and Deku shrugs, humming to a slow melody. Please reconsider. Tsuyu proposed, making Toga huff a small laugh. They got back, watching the Numu literally beat Aizawa's butt. Deku gets up, walking next to Shigaraki. Why are you using the Numa now? All Might isn't here? Shigaraki's chest heaved. Let me give my speech and then you can do whatever. Also, Sensei says you can't leave. Toga owes him 5,000 yen. Deku and Dabi snap their heads towards Toga, who looks away and whistles. Numu, Dabi grunts, and the Numu stops literally FNG murdering Aizawa. Shigaraki frowns in confusion. Dance. Numu then starts breakdancing and Toga joins in too. Numu. It looks at her, and Shigaraki starts yelling. Kill yourself. Shigaraki is scowling and threatening them loudly, throwing a fit. Aizawa gets up, blood covering his face, but he looks around for his students. He sees the Numu rip its own head off, the handyman screeching, and the villain students cackling as blood splatters everywhere, making Tsuyu flinch. I'm so sick of you three. Kurogyri. He whines, waving his arms around like a 2-year-old when it doesn't get what it wants. The blood isn't that bad, but it's still pretty disgusting. Then a loud booming voice from afar lightens up everyone. I am here. Tamura hisses. And then glares at the 3 villain students. You're not coming back, serve this as a punishment. Kurogyri was at his side immediately. They killed the Numu? Of course they did. He huffs. All Might takes Aizawa to the students, and stands there awkwardly as Tamura throws a hissy fit and Kurogyri talks to the 3 of them like they're his kids. Also Twice is screaming while fighting some hero students. Twice. Kurogyri yells, and Twice turns from fighting Kaminari, and does the FNG Naruto run over to him. That was Twice? Kaminari bit, exasperated. Eat your greens, take baths once or twice a day, brush your teeth twice a day, tell Deku's mom I said hi, be kind to others, don't kill and don't be rude. All Might clears his throat, and Kurogyri stares at him. I'm disowning these idiots for a bit. They killed the Numa. Do what you want with them. And with that he bowed and took the villains away. Twice Mock saluted and Toga flipped him off as he went through the portal. The USJ is quiet now, only some students and Aizawa had major injuries. Deku and Dabi stare at Toga as she does as well, and then they FNG attack her, screeching and probably breaking a few bones having seen that their cuffs were disabled for the activities. Toga turned into Dabi and clashed with Deku, but for once, Deku and Dabi were on the same side, literally killing Toga. Okay, that is enough, young Dabi, Toga and Midoriya. The hero students are trying to see if Aizawa has any major injuries. Deku scowls, probably thinking of ways on killing Tamura. It's all your fault. If you didn't kill the stupid Numu, we could have gone back. F you. Is that your only counter-argument? That outta here. I don't know shit about counter-arguments. You retarded. All Might separates with his stupid, large hands and has the audacity to laugh at them. Calm down, children. We will be going back to Yuuei to tend to your classmates and sensei's injuries. And you will be telling us all you know about your villain friends. Aizawa has only one thing in mind when he sees that Midoriya kid, pity. The other teachers have it too, being kinder and more understanding to the angry, cat-inspired child. He'd gone through a lot, and yet still acts like an immature child. Though he knows that is far from the answer. He's smart, one of the smartest in class since he was the strategist for a huge community for villains in all of Japan. He applied that to learning, and was rather mature and knew his stuff. Then his friend/acquaintance, Dabi, who refused to reveal his real name. He had been blessed with good looks and a good brain, though openly insults anyone whenever he wanted, and often got into fights with his friends. Toga didn't get the best grades, but she was terrifyingly accurate, and got tier in some subjects while shitty in others. She had surprisingly exceeding grades but SCD but at math, but was tutored by Izuku, and was slowly getting better and better. They were all cunning and stealthy, but when you spent more than a week with them, They were stupid and made bad decisions just for the F of it. He's covered in blood and scars and those idiot villain kids just waltz in. Hey, sensei. I'm gonna take over class while you're not there. A voice recognized as Toga's chirped. His eyes widened under the bandages. Pho. I can teach and stuff, am I right guys? She laughs and the two boys laugh hysterically. Oh come on. Have some faith in me. Izawa tried to speak, but he was in too much pain. Oh no. Nah, everyone's back at the dorms by now. We can teach them there. Especially the idiots. Let's just say sensei told us to, right? Deku giggles, elbowing Izawa, right in the spot where he was punched and shattered his skin. Yay! They cheered, filing out of the room, chanting, learning, learning, learning. He hates them. I actually don't want to do this anymore. Toga grunts, throwing the pencil to the other side of the room, making Izuku raise an eyebrow. You want to get better in math, don't you? You begged me to tutor you and now you want to kick back and relax because it's too hard. Toga shrugged simply. Basically, yeah. You're lucky I even tutor you, Izuku huffs, continuing to work nonetheless. Ah, it's because you care about me, don't you? Yes? What other reason? Toga clamps her mouth shut. So he does care about her. Oh, Dekenon, you're so good. The other sighs. Yeah. Bakugu, please. Just for the test tomorrow. I'll never ask you for help again. Kaminari and Mina plead, at his door, where he just stares at them as they lower onto their knees. I can't afford to fail this. Mina weeps, clinging onto his leg as he attempts to angrily kick her off. F off. He bit, shaking his leg as she shrieks and holds on for dear life, Kaminari still crying on his hands and knees. Toga is skipping by to see if Shinso wanted to join along, since he was right next to Bakugu. The hero declined the offer to lay down and listen to some music, since he had been studying the few hours before she went there. Kaminari is still crying on the floor and Mina is still trying to cling on before they spot her. They don't really care, just continue with their screaming. You can study with me and Dekken, she offers, trying to look not as intimidating. They stop crying to glance at her. He's not really as murderous as me, he's a huge softy. He won't be that nice when he teaches you since he probably hates you guys, but he'll get it in your head. They continue crying and Toga rolls her eyes, worth a shot. She tries to walk by before they cling onto her feet. Thank you very much. They scream, holding onto her feet as she takes them to Dekken's room, right next to Dabi's, also next to that weird French guy. I replaced Mineta's room with Dabi and put Shinso in that empty room next to Bakugu, and Toga on the girls' level across from Dabi and Izuku. Why are they here? Izuku asks, not really going to turn them down but just curious, staring at the kids with tear-drenched notebooks. Your fake friend was being in butt, so I offered them to study with us. You're welcome. 2 more peoples. She cheered, sitting on the floor. Dabi studied by himself usually, and apparently doesn't have time to deal with people like Toga. That doesn't make sense, use pupils or people instead. He mutters, sitting down and gesturing the 2 hero students to close the door. They do and then sit down watching the 2 of them scribble away. Mina starts, and Izuku looks at her, his dull eyes uninterested. Don't really get the material at all. Izuku stretches and yawns, then settles back into his previous position. Hey, you know what X is, right? They nod rapidly. It's the number you don't know. Use mathematical terms. The unnamed variable. Kaminari frowns. Did he really have to? It felt stupid. You don't have to feel bad about your knowledge. It's normal to not get it if you don't understand it at all. A 5th grade math. As if they didn't understand that. It went like that for the next few hours. They pretty much understand the basics of pre-algebra, so they're not total idiots. I basically explained it to them 75% of the time and 25% did they actually do things. Why didn't they tell the teachers so that they could just get a tutor? Dabi says, drinking his Capri Sun and throwing it in the trash as they walk. Don't know. Probably afraid that they would be taken out of the hero course. Understandable, honestly. Toga groans. She hates when they go off like this, a few minutes or a few hours, talking about mathematical stuff or school or learning or stuff that she finds boring. They look all analytical, using percentages and numbers and stuff, even talking about economy. Talk about weird. People even looked at them weird, whispering stuff like, the super smart guys or the too attractive intelligent guys, but don't know that Dabi was on the roof on the first week of school looking for his class. She thinks, taking a bite into the onigiri Dabi bought for her to keep her from whining, chewing away while staring at the ground. She spotted a familiar mop of purple hair. Shinsuke-kun, she bubbled, grabbing his arm and dragging him to where her two friends were still conversing about useless stuff. Tell them to stop talking about weird stuff. He listened to a few sentences then looked at her. You're upset that they're talking about tests? It's annoying. They were never like this. Yuuei are making them smart people? Shinso snickers. They were probably always smart people. Shut up, you sap, all they usually do is fight and bicker all day or read comic books and play video games. He gapes at her. You used the word bicker? Have you never thought that a 6-letter word like that would be in my vocabulary? Shinso just whispered to her and walked around a wall, but the two were so engulfed in their conversation that they hid it, making them snap out of their trance and then blamed each other, ready to tackle each other immediately. Minoma walked by and laughed, looking to Shinso. It's so sad that you're in class 1A. They seem so stupid. Izuku smiles warmly at him. I've hacked into the school system and seen your grades. They seem so stupid. You little dash, break it up. Shinso groans, swatting the two away from each other. Aizawa glares at Denki and Ishido, who he told to stay after class. He gripped the papers and read over them again and again. Same messy handwriting, same simple mistakes, but somehow, they passed. He looked up to the students, who looked miserable. Did you cheat? Why do you think we cheated? Mina challenged, immediately regretting it as the teacher heaved a heavy sigh. Because you passed. Just how low is your confidence in us? Kaminari yelps. Well, we only passed because Midoriya-san wouldn't let us leave until we fully understood it. It helps too. Mina boasts, putting her hands on her hips and her aura basically bursting with pride. Oh really? Well, it doesn't seem like he's doing any harm, so I'll assign you two to him. They both salute and walk out of the classroom with tests in hand, and runs to Shiro, Bakugo and Kirishima, who are chatting on the way to lunch. We passed. They bawled, tackling over their friends, which erupted a laugh from Kirishima, a string of curses from Bakugo and a sigh from Shiro. Then Izuku walked by himself, for once, walking quickly, probably to an upbeat song. Midoriya Aya. They barked, tackling him down and earning a squeak from the villain. We passed. Good job. He says, looking uninspired as usual, watching them get off of him and hop up and down, over and over and over again. He wonders how someone could have so much energy if they weren't killing someone else. You get to tutor us forever and ever. He looks agitated now. No thanks. I have better things to do, he mumbles on, staring off into blank space, edging away from the two very enthusiastic hero students. He looks really sad. Did he have a fight with his friends? Why so upset? Mina cooed, petting him even though she was shorter than him. Just thinking, he gurgles, then goes at a faster pace to get away to the now not as enthusiastic heroes. I wonder why he's so sad. Kaminari sighs as he walks with his friends, earning a grunt from Baku. Like, okay, we're the ones supposed to be sad with them in our class, but he doesn't have any reason. He just went back and got internet famous, goes to a good school and has a nice place to live, nice friends and gets to stay in contact with his mom dash. Shut up. Bakugo yells, making Kaminari flinch. He usually never got scared of his friend, but he knew that he was so sad that he didn't even feel the tiniest twinge of guilt in his heart. You know about him, huh? Kirishima put a hand on Bakugo's shoulder. Stop that. You're scaring him. He frowned, imagining crybaby Deku in front of him instead of Kaminari, and let out an aggravated TSK, stomping away with his hands shoved in his pockets. He's never gotten that angry before. You're so depressing, Deku-kun. Toga whimpers as she attempts to grab the attention of the taller boy who was currently playing with bubble wrap, like a curious, sleep-deprived and honestly really sad kitten. Go find something to do then. He mutters, glaring at the wrap. I'm so worried. The sports festival is coming up soon, and you and Dabi haven't practiced at all. She whines, rolling on her back. Of course they're not going to let us participate. They're not stupid, we're too dangerous under their noses to go then. Probably one of the Gen Ed kids are going to replace someone in our class and then we just suffer until sensei lets us go back. You seem so dead inside, lighten up, Deku. He grunts, ignoring her advice completely and continues to do whatever the hell he was currently doing. She sighs. It was true that the heroes probably wouldn't let them participate in the tournament at how risky and uncoordinated it is. The principal wants to talk to you three, Ida instructs the villains as they stepped into the school, causing Toga to chirp with happiness. There is something important you must have a conversation on. Dabi grunted. Whatever, Sonic. Piss us off. What does Nedzu want to talk to them about? So, because you three were being trustworthy and saving our students at the USJ, we will think about whether or not we should let you participate. Izuku stayed quiet, nodding, making Toga gaze at him in concern. She glances at Dabi, who was looking at their friend with the same amount of sorrow in his eyes, basically ignoring the rat bear man. Yup. Toga purred, trying too desperately to stay in character. Did you three know about the USJ attack? The three villains glanced at him, then glanced at each other, then looked back at him. If we did, we would have just escaped. It was hard to think in that situation. We didn't know what to do. Even if Toga tried, they held her back. Izuku stated numbly, his gaze resting on his shoes as he shuffled his feet, mumbling the last bit. All right. He chirps, clapping his paws together. I knew it was a good idea to put you guys on the right path. What makes you think we're on the right path? Toga questions, more calm but also more stressed at the familiar way her friend was acting. You seem to pay more attention. In class, once something you aren't aware of pops up. Constantly taking notes and mumbling about it to yourself on the way to your next class makes it seem like you are rather excited to learn. He countered, grinning excitedly. Even if your mindset hasn't changed, I'm glad you're genuinely happy about something since you arrived here. Deku was numb. He didn't want to feel anything or do anything at the current moment, and he wished he was sick. It was troubling. Sure. Dabi grunted as he narrowed his eyes at his short friend, mumbling and stuttering incoherent nonsense to himself. Well, you are dismissed. Keep it up. The happy rat bear dog cheered as they shuffled out of the classroom. Toga walked behind Deku and Dabi in front of him, watching him as he dragged himself down the halls. How very troubling. Those guys get quieter. It scares me, Kaminari heaves, throwing himself on a seat next to Kirishima, who nods in agreement. Yeah, are they planning something? What if they kill a bunch of people at the tournament? Don't say that. Momo whispers, high-pitched. You shouldn't have that mindset. Sure, they are villains, but they could be lost or something. Didn't you hear the rumors? Rumors? Yeah. Mina slides in. Some kid with a mind-reading quirk read Sensei's mind and she said that Midoriya-kun was tortured by his own father. Kirishima and Kaminari collectively gasp. Seriously? You really believe that stuff? Maybe Sensei just thought that as a possibility. How would he even get that information? Siro mused. Or they were lying. Nothing to sneeze at. You know, it'd be really sad if it were true. You shouldn't joke like that, Jiraiya reasoned, twirling her earjacks with her finger. Dabi and Toga stagger in, right before class ends, uncertain looks on their faces as they sit down in their seats, tapping their feet or bouncing their leg. Where's Midoriya? Said he was sick. Toga recalled, looking around anxiously while clenching her fists. Slong, he's okay. Aizawa rolls into class. Even he looks worried? Heavy breathing. Deep breath in and out. You don't have to hurt yourself. You're going to hurt your friends if you hurt yourself. They're going to get tired of you and say, again? You're doing this again. You don't deserve them. In fact, they deserve an award for listening and dealing with your bullshit. A huge but gold trophy that says, Had to deal with a fucktard. I'm okay. I'm okay. He pulls his knees closer to his chest, stuttering his breath as he desperately tries to breathe calmly, tries to take in more air, though as he attempts to, it seems as though he is only getting less and less. They're going to ask why you're hurt. You're on school grounds, nobody's allowed to hurt you, so why are you hurt? You don't have to do that again, he breathed. Are you okay? A girl with golden hair reaches a hand out to him, and he cowers in fear. How familiar. You're scaring him. So rude, Dabi. Hey, green-haired guy. What's wrong? Should we give him a hug or is he too scared? Baka, you don't give someone who looks like they've seen all the world's problems a hug immediately. Just wait. They sit near him and tell him things like, it's only temporary. You'll be okay. Don't force such short breaths. Calm down. He feels okay. I'm worried about him. He seemed way off today. I hope he's not having another episode. Toga admitted, shoving her hands in her non-existent pockets as they head to the dorms. He looks at her with a questionable expression but only ever mutters a yeah, and walk faster, trying to see if their friend is okay. Deku! Dabi yelled, the sound of his voice echoing. Toga immediately knew what this meant, and so did Dabi, as they made their way to their floor, searching for their friend's room. Izuku! Dabi breathed as he entered the room. The lights were on, but he was crumpled in the corner, breathing and harsh breathing escaping his mouth as he sniffled and silent tears rolled down his face. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. He's coughing from the tight feeling in his chest. My heart is beating so fast. I thought this was over hours ago. I don't want to die. Izuku. Toga lowers to his level and looks into his eyes, and he stares back at her, then looks at the ground again. Look at me. Hey, breathe. It's going to be over. You're going to say, why was I ever worried? I was going to be okay in the first place. This is temporary. He gazes at her eyes, and despite how sharp they're shaped, they seem soft, a kind, genuine smile curved into her lips as he stares into her eyes. Dabi is there too, by her side, watching him calm down and start to breathe again, even if he does have difficulties. Okay. His breath is shaky, but he's speaking. I'm okay. Why is she trying to distract me? Does she think I'm stupid? Why is he lying? It's obvious that he isn't okay. Oh God, Izuku hates flashbacks, anything to do with the past. Worthless piece of shit. Quirkless. Run away, Izuku. Izuku sobbed, curling into a tighter ball. He can't do this. He wants to be with his mother, he wants to be happy, he wants. Izuku, I think you should take a nap. Toga tried to be cheery, but in a situation like this, it only made her sad. The hurt was shown in her voice as she patted his head, watching as he struggled to breathe in and out. I'm okay, he breathed the words, letting a shaky smile tell one story while his tear-filled eyes told another. Well, no you're not. No shit, Sherlock. Dabi opens his arms and he actually looks soft for once. Do you want a hug? Deku rushes into his arms and Toga laughs giddily, and then he's out. He's asleep already? Man, we should have gone home with him. Toga mentioned, and Dabi only picked up the younger boy and put him to bed as an agreement. The heroes are wandering around, and they stare at Dabi and Toga when they enter the living room. Where was Midoriya during school? Was he sleeping? Ida asked, and Dabi only grunted in response to his question. How rude. He had a panic attack. Toga takes a slice of pizza and puts it in the microwave, and most of the students gasp. Dabi scowls at the wall. What an idiot to spill everything. Is he all right? Oh no, Momo mutters, sitting down in such a civil manner. Well, yeah, he's sleeping now. Exhausted. Pretty sure he was having them alone all day. Everyone looked towards the direction of Izuku's room. Little sheet, Bakugan muttered while walking towards the room, his clenched fists producing steam as he stomped. Dabi grabbed his shoulder and glared into Bakugu's soul. Where the hell you think you're going? Bakugu, is it really a good idea to scream at someone right after having a panic attack? Didn't think you were that heartless, Toga sighed, and everyone glanced at her with doubt in their eyes. Should I tell Sensei? Uraraka asks, looking visibly concerned, despite the massive amount of doubt she had in the villains. Whatever. So you never really trusted those weird villains. Naturally, they weren't supposed to, but she stopped being aggressive to them once she had realized that they may have some F'd up past. The Izuku kid wasn't doing too well, slowly straying away from his own friends and into a captivity he crafted with his own hands. Sensei, Midoriya-kun had a panic attack, so should he go to school tomorrow? Momo asks him once she gets to school, only for the teacher to widen his eyes and tense up. Let recovery girl check him up. He's asleep. She'll come by tomorrow morning, someone must stay and watch him. The villains? They do dumb stuff. But Kugu-kun? Seriously? Jairu-chan maybe? Aizawa was about to make another cocky remark but then closed his mouth and wondered. Why are you here? Everyone went to school and Aizawa told me to stay back with you. Whatever, he groaned, throwing his sweaty and overheated head onto the pillows, kicking off his blanket and curling deeper into his bed. Some clearing up and analysis because we try to be in character. That Dabi guy is a normally cruel and unforgiving person. He looks twice as old as he seems to be. Toga is a creepy weirdo with a thirst for blood, saying stuff like, "Can I stab him?" normally when someone does anything, ever. Izuku. He seems vulnerable and pretty creepy from the videos taken of him brooding around and watching the other villains doing his dirty work. As I said in the story, Izuku isn't a mass weirdo murderer, he analyzes his opponents and only ever kills trash heroes, which is why he likes the stain concept. Dabi and Toga obs do too. I'm sorry if I placed them too early in the story, they help, I promise. I forgot to add Spinner and a bunch of other important villains. He has killed quite a lot of people by how much he brags. But apparently they are all followers of Stain. Some, like Dabi, more religious than others. The Vanguard Action Squad. I was mesmerized, they're so cool. Spinner isn't that bloodthirsty and seems like a minion for Stain, but was never made one by Stain. Just some creepy weirdo who will go by Stain, hero killer, S-way. Loving the lizard? Appreciation. Twice as childish as usual and can go from teasing someone to complimenting them if they say anything bad about themselves. As seen in the manga, when Twice says something like, "What are you, weak?" But then when Dabi says he might be right, he goes immediately to saying that, "Heck no, dude. You're strong." I like to imagine that Izuku and Dabi have the same goofy relationship if they could. I just wish Dabi could be more joking as he is shown in this story. I guess I should have read the manga sooner. Toga seems to analyze things and take stabbing way too natural for a cause. I made her too soft in here. Though, if she was alone with two people she genuinely considers friends, I guess, maybe she can be vulnerable too? Oh no, this is a mess. I'm really sorry if Dabi seems too cute and soft for this. I'll try to make him more like he is in here. Arg. Maybe it's because if they step out of line the heroes will make sure they pay, or something. What a lame excuse. Toxic. Jairu is gone by the time he wakes up, and it's only 11 a.m. He groans and falls back into bed, but he's sweaty and uncomfortable so he gets up, takes a shower and gets into a baby blue t-shirt and some black shorts. Oh. Izuku walks in and sits on the couch. So boring without his idiots around, no trouble to get into without his friends. Jairu is on the other couch, watching TV while doing some homework, and looks over at him. You have a lot of bandages and scars. Great conversation starter, my dude. I'm aware. So, do you have any pets at home? No. Nice. Why is she asking me questions? This became more awkward than it was before. Why the hell did I ask him if he has any pets? Beach hasn't been living with his parents since he was 11. Great, now I'm sweating. Thanks, earphones girl. So, what time is it? 11:05 am. That's nice. Thanks. Izuku mutters, going to the elevator and hoping it would break and he would fall to his demise. Unfortunately, the girl got up the same time as he did, so they both sat back down, staring at the ground in discomfort. Can I put some Shane Dawson on the TV? Izuku asks, taking out his phone and fumbling with it. Also, Yuuei monitors the things they text the villains. At first, They were completely blocked, but learning that the villains had no intention of attacking them again since they cared about their members, they were allowed to text. Now Yudata knows what's going through, but it's just shitposting. Also, when they read Izuku's mind, they realized that the villains never harmed or manipulated him, and just told him to live a peaceful life as long as he wanted. They knew they weren't that bad. Oh my god, I love Shane Dawson. He is such an icon. Their new dog named Honey? I love Ryland. Dabi, yo you good? Dabi, WOWSHAFDD. Deku, worrying about me? Dabi, shut. Deku, yeet hurry up and get over here. Dabi, wait you impatient f. I'm sad though. You're here now. Izuku let Dabi into his room, which was messy and uncoordinated but neater than Dabi's room, though. Should we get Toga too? Izuku asks. Nah. I'm here. Toga slides into his room, breathing, in all her sweaty glory. W. Oh well, sit down. Sir, yes sir. She was more energetic than usual, sitting down but still moving her leg up and down, wildly glancing between both of them, waiting for one of them to say something. So we fully know that Tamura is mad at us. Izuku starts, pinching the bridge of his nose. Aha. And so is Kurojiiri. Yayup. So we have to get out of here ourselves. Correcto. But we don't have any way of getting out, no matter how hard I try to look for flaws in their system. That is a very understandable statement. Will you shut the F up? Izuku bites, and Dabi just sticks his tongue out like a kid, and it's FNG cute, so now Izuku can't look at him for the next 5 minutes. So, what's the plan? Toga chirps, sick of the plain statements. I don't know. You our strategist? Not knowing something? That's so unheard of. Toga dramatically swoons and falls on the carpet with a sharp grin. We could just stay here until the end of the first year. You know how behind we'd be? That's a terrible idea. Dabi snorts, and Toga attacks him, and now it's a full-fledged war but without quirks, and now Izuku is cackling while the other two are screeching. Baku bro, did ya see the villains? Villains? That means Deku. Still really freaking hard to process. No, PSS off. Oh come on, are you still upset? Bakugo twitched, hell yeah he's upset. Where's the Deku he knew when they were children? The one who wanted to be hero? So irritating. Hey Baku bro, you knew Deku when you were younger, right? Baku did a silent nod. How come he didn't tell you any of this? Bakugo stopped walking and sighed. He would come to the playground bandaged, his mother would come with him to my house. He would sleep in my bed, but I never understood why. I would hear my mom yell at his over something. One day his mom came to our house without Izuku and said he went missing. Kirishima listened, and you never asked what was happening at home? I remember asking him once, he said he fell down the steps because he's clumsy Deku. Bakugo started walking but not to class. Where you going? Midnight's class is this way. I'll be there late. I have business to attend to. Bakugo started walking down the halls, leaving Kirishima confused, with his arms still outstretched in an attempt to reach his friend. Where could he possibly be going? Bakugo made his way out of the school and towards the dorms. He had many questions for Deku. Probably even some that he didn't have answers to. But he dragged them out of him, he knew he would. Why are you still here? Deku just shrugged. I guess it's the initial shock. I'd go back if I could, I'm missing a lot, aren't I? They said I have to stay back anyways, though. You care so much about missing a single lesson? Weirdo. Whatever. Shouldn't you be in class? He replies, liking his thumb and flicking to the next page of a book he was reading. I'm gonna ask you some questions, nerd, so listen. Whatever. He sure says that a lot now. Whatever. Why the hell did you listen to those FNG villains when they told you to join? They never told me to join. They said I could live with them and just stay on different paths, since they were my friends. I joined myself when I realized that heroes are trash. Like, you know, Stain. The hero killer. He's so cool. Most of the time he does kill the villains, but he injures them enough to not let them engage in hero work anymore, but makes them learn their lesson. It's unfortunate though dash. Annoying, annoying, annoying. He used to gush about heroes and their quirks and how cool they are, and now he's fangirling over a villain and it's annoying. Shut up. That's so fucking annoying. When the hell did you decide heroes were trash? Bakugo is now trying to drag the truth out of him. They knew what happened with Izuku's father, but they never spoke about it ever since Izuku got to Yuuei. That you're really asking like you don't know why. I'll kill you. Answer me. Then kill me. I'm only ever alive because my mom would be sad if I died. I'm alive because of my friends. I'm not staying alive just so you can come and scream in my face. Bakugo snarls and takes another step towards Deku. Listen here, you little dash. Deku stood up, glaring daggers into Bakugo's soul. Get out and go to class. Bakugo wanted to threaten him and maybe throw a punch or two, but he just scowled and turned around, kicking the door open and stomping to the elevators. Deku sighed as he heard the ding, and closed the door before hopping onto his bed and texting Toga. Fluffy broccoli boo, Toga. Creepy knife lady, what? Fluffy broccoli boo, how fed up WHS your childhood? Creepy knife lady, WHS. Fluffy broccoli boo, shut. Toga played in the playground a lot. She didn't like to go home, they never told her when to go home, but she figured out by herself when she came home at 12 a.m. and the door was locked. She slept outside. She was never allowed to skip school, even when she was sick. She realized that they locked everything and closed the door at 8 p.m., and school ended at 3 p.m. So she had 5 hours of time to do homework and play by herself, sitting on the benches and attempting to climb trees. Her brother was with her sometimes, both of them only ever going home before they were locked out. They avoided their parents as much as possible, and of course it came off as suspicious. But the people at their school didn't care, or they didn't want to get involved. No one wants to get involved with the weirdos. No one at all. One day Toga was bullied by some older kids. They said her quirk was creepy, that she didn't look fit to be in society. They called her a monkey. She was an easy crier. So she cried until those older kids left while laughing and clawing her homework to pieces. How lame she was, to let that happen to her. She went home, feeling alone. She was going to prove everyone wrong. She was going to grow up and become a hero. A hero. Everyone who laughed at her will regret. They will regret laughing and making fun of her. She could make her brother happy, he was the only one who meant something to her. But the day where she had enough. She was tired. She went to school looking dead, and everyone tried to stay away from her, fearing she was sick. But they didn't stop. Hey Toga. One of the bullies teased. She kept on walking. Baby Toga. They laughed, throwing a rock at her. She easily dodged it. She got better at dodging. She was the fastest runner in her class. It was all from experience. Baby Toga. Crybaby. They teased. Such a baby. Creepy quirk but ugly beach. She held a sharp rock up to one of the kids' throats, and he gasped as it scraped his throat, gushing out some blood from the wound. Stop, she whispered, her eyes dull and dark and her head hurt, her body was numb and she had no homework, nothing to do but draw, and she wasn't even looking forward to that anymore. Stop. You're going way too far. Toga gave in and walked away, slower than before, making sure that they were scared, watching them hurry away like kicked puppies. She felt terrible. The time after she killed her father was a blur. She didn't feel guilty, even though she expected herself to. Now she can't feel anything. Watching from a large public screen in Tokyo, she sees news about some league of villains attacking heroes and hero schools. She wants to be part of them. She'll see if Twice wants to join as well. Life's only been getting worse since then. Her friends make it bearable. Creepy knife lady, ick pretty messed up. Fluffy broccoli boy, oh h&o. I wish I was in class right now. Apparently, you'd oughta thought that him freaking out like he'd done before was abnormal, and now he had to be protected at all costs. He wants to be in class. How much has he missed? The internet backlashed, going from telling Deku to get out and kill himself to blaming Yuuei for stressing him out and leading to his panic attack. Sensei would be proud. Bored. Then, he remembers that the tournament is coming soon. He falls off the bed. Time skip. Today's the big day, isn't it, Dabi-kun? Never speak to me if not necessary. Toga groaned at his normal emo reaction and peeked over at Deku, who was biting his fingernails, causing blood to flow down his finger. He doesn't notice, of course. Just stares off into space, biting his fingernails and ripping the skin around it as well. Toga taps his shoulder, but he doesn't snap out of his trance. It smells like chemicals in here. Midoriya huffs as Shigaraki opened the door to a room with a single bed in the corner. Well, get set up, kid. I'll be in the bar. Midoriya watches the older teen stumble out of the door, carefree since Kurojirai and him got him gloves that only covered his pinky and his ring finger. He was so ecstatic like a child. And when the other villains came, they were rough around the edges at first, but nonetheless a team and a family. He was happy like this. He could talk to his mother. He did what he wanted. He was happy. Deku! He snapped out of it as he bumped into the guy with bright yellow hair. Kirishima? Kaminari, apologize. He was the one who bumped into me. Oh, his name was Kaminari. He got that completely wrong. Sorry, he muttered, and he stopped biting his fingers, which stopped worrying Himiko. Her being worried about anyone was scary enough. Ashido, Denki and Aijiro watched the villains stumble off to the tournament, while they were still trying to find Hanta and Katsuki. We're gonna do this, Kirishima whispers, and the other two screech loudly in response. The tournament. Izuku stood in front of the tournament doors. He never understood it. Heroes, fighting heroes, for top spot. That's why heroes are corrupted now. Nevertheless, he was forced to compete. But how the hell is a kid only trained to kill going to go up against a bunch of kids just for fun? I'm seriously going to tell them, he laughed to himself as he made his way to the arena, showing up behind the rest of his class. The arena erupted in gasps, cheers and boos. Toga waved at him with both of her arms while Dabi just gave him a mere glance before looking at the ground again. Midoriya thought he was just being plain rude, but in reality, the guy felt uncomfortable whenever he looked at the audience and the girls squealed. Toga, Dabi, come here. Dabi told him to get here himself, but he came over anyways, and Toga skipped over giddily, so very excited to participate in any of these. The students and Midnight are watching him intently when his friends come over, so Ida came marching over after he told them. Ida came over to them as they ranted at him, and did those choppy hand movements with a bellowing voice. You are not permitted to spill secrets, attempt to go back to villainy or hurt anyone in the arena. A few people wouldn't hurt. Midoriya mumbled without his signature grin on his face, trying to cause a chaos. I mean, they would hurt, but it wouldn't really affect me, would it? He sees Todoroki come over and put on the cutest and most innocent face he could muster as the taller boy took him by the front of his shirt. You son of a dash. Todoroki Shudo. You are not allowed to injure another student if they are not inflicting harm on others or have a motive to do so. His voice is loud and lots of people gasp, making Midoriya giggle on the inside. Dabi watches them all boo Todoroki and sees a familiar fiery face in the audience. Their eyes meet and Dabi glares at him, unlike before. Sneering at him is that same ugly and justice-filled eyes. He got those eyes from him. He knew he was around Shudo's age. When he was small, his mother had pretty white hair and the kindest smile in all of Japan. That nasty father of his wasn't satisfied with how his fire just wasn't strong enough, how he was forced to train since he hated it. He refused his father, and he awaited to see how his brother, a year younger than him, would have his quirk. After he was revealed, he felt as if his father shoved his siblings and him aside. Though he had already done that before. The night he wanted to run away, that was the last he or his siblings ever saw of his mother. Training and beating himself to a pulp, ever since he burned his own skin from training so much, he told his mother one last thing, the day before she poured a hot kettle all over his brother's face. I hate heroes. She hums. The night before he leaves, he is trained bloody and beaten. Shudo is quiet, helping him patch up, and when he goes, Shudo sees him off. Not speaking, just signaling. He's hurt. So is he. It hurts so bad. You guys really do like spacing off, do you not? Toga hisses as she kicks Dabi's shin. He blinks and the man he was glaring at is watching his friends try to make him stop daydreaming. He grumbles and, "Oh, okay," and walks into the middle of an arena. Midoriya and Himiko widen their eyes at each other in response. The only other time that Dabi had been so cooperative was when, "Calm down, Midoriya." Dabi called him Midoriya. This makes him freak out even more, his chest heaving in and out quickly, harsh breaths and sweat rolling down his forehead quickly and rapidly, pressing his knees to his chest and whimpering like a kicked puppy. Dabi drags him by his hoodie despite Twice and Toga's protests and takes him wherever. He doesn't remember, he currently doesn't want to remember. He thinks that they're on top of a building now, and it's raining so hard. He drops next to him with his feet dangled over the side of the building, watching the rain pour down on them, soaking their clothes and their faces. Midoriya thinks that, what the living F, dude? Why would this help? But his session ceased and he just listened to the rain as it dropped next to them, on them. Then he looked down. To heights. He hates heights, no matter how many times he was told to get through with it. He thinks, F his pride, I'm not going to fall down that, no matter how safely I land. So he clutches onto Dabi and he thinks he's going to freak out again, but his clutch on the older boy and taking in the smell of the rain, splattering on his face and blowing his hair in absurd directions makes him loosen his grip and close his eyes. When he opens them, he gets a perfect view of the sun going down. He didn't notice that it was there, behind all those crowds and his mind distracting him. The sky goes into a deep, mango and calming color of orange before the sun seems as if it is dipped into the city before them and are engulfed by the dark of the night sky, scattered with stars. He hates feeling useless, vulnerable. It reminded him of a time where he couldn't do anything to ensure his and someone he cared very much about safety. But right now, next to someone he had just recently learned to trust, he feels all right being vulnerable. Man, that scared me. Is he okay? I don't know, he might be possessed. Nice guess. I don't think that's it, though. Despite being the chosen one to see Dabi's weak moments, he never used it against the other boy. Or be motivated enough to see what the guy was going through. Hey! Hey Dabi! Hey! Yeah, yup, no. Toga drags him by the arm away from Dabi, who is looking at the sky as if it were the first time he had ever seen it. You are not good at comforting people. He opens his mouth to answer, but a loud voice interrupts him, and he recognizes that excited yell of the sound hero, present mic. Hi listeners. Are you ready for the first trial? Wow, how blunt. You guys ready? Toga responded with a hyper and high-pitched yelp, and Dabi just scoffed, acting as his usual self again. Something was off. Class 1A, and the villain students. These students were captured from their crimes and atoned to them, but forced to enlist in one of the top schools in all of Japan, and put in the hero class under the careful watch of Aizawa, their homeroom teacher. This rehab has recently been flourishing, with their behavior and grades also improving. And the villain students. Dabi muttered, watching a familiar fiery face from the stands, looking judgmental as hell as it watched Todoroki Shudo, the only successful creation that he made. Now get ROI because here we go. Shut your mouth. They didn't really have a plan. So both Toga and Deku clung onto Dabi's waist as he skyrocketed forward with his flames, Toga giggling extremely loudly and Deku terrified for his life, tears springing in his eyes as he tightened his grasp on his unsuspecting friend. Bad idea, bad idea, bad idea dash. Get the hell off of me. Dabi yells at the two holding on to him, trying to wiggle slightly as he flew through the air. I want to. Toga hollers happily as she lets go, jumping on people's heads to make her way to the front of the field, causing some abrupt shrieks and some people even fall down and get trampled. Deku still clings onto him for dear life, sobbing while just trying to hold on as the older of the two keeps on blasting himself with his fire. I swear, Deku. You have to do some work by yourself. With that, with a single tug, Deku fell off. Deku instantly made his way into the air again because of his quirk, which was called energy shards. While why didn't you call me out, I put that he had a quirk in the tags, but I never mentioned it. Jsaf toxic, and he usually concentrates his blood into the shards. When he had first received the quirk from Sensei, he had to do this because he thought that the more blood he put, the quicker it would move. It was, however, the other way around, as blood makes it heavier and affects the opponent less. Putting less blood lets the shards pierce the opponent's skin and drain the blood from them, and they are lighter and he can produce more of them. He can acquire as large or as many shards as he wants connected to any part of his body. If I get any comments saying if he can connect to his D, I will, to pierce the opponent and just stab them to death. Sensei had given him this quirk with no known time limit, though the amount of energy he has is based on the amount of blood he has left in his body. Now he's up in the air, bouncing off the robots with ease as he realized that this was a better option than just clinging to Dabi. Toga is seen in the corner of his eye gracefully twirling and gliding over robots, though she was close to annihilating some of the other Yuuei participants. Looking at Dabi, who had slightly burnt Bakugo, who was declaring war to him right then and there. Midoriya Izuku finally uses his quirk. This somewhat reminded him of the time they had gotten caught in all this Yuuei mess, which was his fault entirely. What loyal friends to stick with him. Todoroki had frozen the floor anyways, so he never touched the ground ever since he had started the race. Though, he seemed sort of tired, so he fell to the ground, which caused Dabi to look at him alarmingly and weaken his flames, and so did Toga, knowing that they could blast themselves off with them. However, this was a terrible idea. Toga tried it and got blasted off with burns all over her face and arms, whooping in a rather painful and scratchy voice as she sailed past all the students trying to keep up. Midoriya hopped on all of them before hopping on the second last one, reserving the last one for Dabi as the blue-eyed boy stepped on it rather harshly and they both went flying, one screaming and one silent, sitting like a 6-year-old. Landing a few feet behind Toga, the two of them fight for second place, knowing fully well that they couldn't catch up to Toga, who was 10 feet in front of them. The light shone as they made their way through, and Dabi, worn out or probably pitying Midoriya, slowed down a bit so the freckled one could be second. It didn't really matter, anyways. Some cheer, some boo them, but Toga just wraps her arms around Deku and lifts him, causing him to squeak and scream and flail about, cursing her as he tried to squirm free. The heroes come in next. All of them, except for monotone-faced Tsu, looked distraught at the fact that the villains made it before them. Todoroki watches Dabi smile softly at his two friends literally beating each other up in front of hundreds of people. As Midnight explains, all eyes land on Midoriya, who is worth 10 million points, and Toga grins her sharp grin and calls Dabi over to lift him on their shoulders. A few people come over and ask to be part of their team, but they wave them off and run to Shinso and drag him along with them, to which he doesn't mind much. Millions of things are going through her head right now. Somebody please help me. Toga Himiko. A girl who had no hopes because she wasn't allowed to dream. She spent her time in that little playground near her house because it hurt being at home. She would swing on those swings, all by herself, and slid down that broken down slide because it was done for, and all those kids who saw her sliding down it decided to break it. Then, someone that looked similar to her would come there and she'd run off with him towards the largest house on the block. Then one day, she stopped coming. The media went crazy, blamed a villain for killing her parents and sibling and then finishing with her. But they were wrong. Her family was broken from the start. But she made a new family. A family of people who cared for her and comforted her, and people who didn't think twice about what she was capable of, but helped her when she wasn't. And yet, she was near the people she knew would hurt her all over again, so she stayed quiet and smiled. Because that's all she was good at. The fight ended quickly. They ended up second since Todoroki Shudo pulled a dirty trick at the end, but overall, it was fine. And then later, Todoroki confronted Izuku. My mother always seemed sad. He says. Your left side is unsightly, she'd say, as she poured scalding water over my face. Oh, that's some deep shit. So that is why I will defeat you. Todoroki glares at him. Though his father is the worst person he's ever met, he absolutely despises villains. He only ever dragged Midoriya aside because he couldn't bear speaking to Dabi, who gave off a cold aura despite having a fire quirk. The way Endeavor sneers at the black-haired boy sends a chill down his spine, and he goes to stretch or maybe be less anxious before the match, and as he walks away, he can feel Midoriya's gaze piercing through his skin. It's as if the wind carries his soft whisper over to Todoroki, and he swiftly turns around, only to see the green-haired villain making his way back into the arena, a small smile gracing his lips. It's as if he's taunting him. He shudders as he remembers the words he felt the boy utter to him. I will defeat you, hero. Heroes amongst themselves speak of the villains that were included in the tournament. How could Yuuei be so gullible? Midoriya fully knew the real reason Sensei was making them stay. Not because stupid Toga owed him money, though she did, but because they were going to destroy Yuuei from the inside. Not physically, mind you. Attacking them would be foolish, as they did suspect that would happen. The USJ attack was simply a joke to make them think they were holding the young villains captive. They were going to do little things, such as provoke a Yuuei student or teacher, have them attack them, look innocent, and get it on tape. Show up at Yuuei and make it have a bad image. Make people think of Yuuei as a terrible place to let their children go to. However, it proves to be rather difficult knowing the people and students in that school never really did anything to deserve having their life going downhill just because some petty losers who care about the economy wanted equality. Which is why, when some people were playing the games, de-stressing before the one-on-one battles, the villains all sat together underneath a large oak tree, in which Toga had climbed and is now swinging from one of the sturdy branches on it. Midoriya and Dabi sat under the tree, the latter laying down to stare at the sky, while the shorter one read a book while having the oak support his weight. Toga seemed to get her mind running by always moving around, but that proved to be the opposite of what they wanted, so she propelled herself off of the branch and landed in between the two boys, earning a hum from Midoriya and a sudden jolt from Dabi. Man, I sure do regret not paying Sensei's money back. The two of them stop lounging around, stiffen up and stare at the oblivious girl, who is now picking at her fingernails. Midoriya opens his mouth but Dabi just shakes his head, and they go on with their free time before the one-on-one matches begin. Villains! A loud voice bellows, and only Midoriya glances up from his book to look at the raging Tetsu, Monoma and Kendo making their way over to them. Ignoring them, he goes back to reading, even when they come over and stand there, waiting for the villains to say something, despite initiating the conversation. Dabi opened an eye to stare at them, a frown appearing as he just sighed heavily and went back to whatever he was doing. Attempting to sleep? Probably. Monoma started cackling again. Huh? What is this? Just because you're in Class 1A doesn't mean you won't be kicked out. Toga got up immediately, making all three of the Class 1B students step back in shock. But we want to be kicked out. Man, this is all Sensei's fault. The hero students looked confused, at the most, while Dabi and Midoriya just exchanged knowing looks with each other. While she didn't really know what Sensei's true intentions were, she was right that this whole annoying mess was Sensei's fault. At the start, Dabi and Toga weren't too keen on having Sensei operate everything that went on in the League of Villains. They kept it to themselves until Dabi let out a witty remark about Sensei. Obviously offended, and with a hand on his hip and pointing a finger at Dabi, Midoriya started angrily insulting him, while Kurogiri looked on with amusement. Starting from there, they would act crude to each other, going to rooms with the other in it just to start fights. Eventually, Kurogiri made them wear a "This is our get-along" sweater, and while it was a little bit bigger than Dabi's size, Midoriya was trying real hard to make it seem like the sweater wasn't too baggy and large for him. In the end, the two grew onto each other, and often had no rule for personal space. Toga and the others weren't left out of it either. They were all just annoying brats that Kurogiri has to monitor. So now, as if they had telepathy, the two asked the hero students what they came for. What do you want? Kendo hit Monoma on the back of the head and Tetsu pointed behind him with a wide grin, though he was sweating and stuttering quite a bit. The next game is starting. Kendo snorts. Toga squeals and shakes Tetsu back and forth, as he was the person nearest to her. Surprised and obviously shocked, he freezes in place as if he were a robot. Let the poor guy go, Toga. Midoriya kicks her feet and she squeaks, falling down with a thump. Jumping back up at the speed of lightning, she grins and hops away to the arena, leaving behind an unfazed Midoriya and Dabi, a giggling Kendo, a cocky Monoma and a shocked Tetsu. Deku, all the first round is me against Shinso, wish me luck, benches. Toga, no. Momo, excuse me? Deku, sheet wrong chat. Toga, I am. But Dabi, sounds fake but okay. Deku, okay, here we go. Deku, here. We go. So, here we go. Dabi, okay, shut the f. Dabi, shut. Fifth. Dabi, shut the f. Deku, I have never felt more disgusted, revolted, or disappointed in my entire life. Pikachu, should you really be on your phone RNLMAO OMG. Toga, shut the F up you if you ignore me. Pikachu, oi. Deku, haha that hurt me and I wasn't even the one being insulted. Dabi, with that face aren't you always being insulted? Deku, it's only Monday stop roasting me. Note, Dabi and Toga take Tetsu and Shinozaki's places. I'm sorry. I really am. Toxic. Midoriya steps up to meet face-to-face with Shinso Hitoshi, who smiles at him. Not in a warm, kind, or friendly way, mind you. His grin seems as ominous as those dark bags under his eyes, his wild violet hair. The round starts and he thinks, oh, this is going to be easy. Shinso speeds up to him, and then he starts running, and Midoriya doesn't move, just watches on, wanting to smile but curious as to what his friend were to say to provoke him. Hi, the hero student whispered in his ear, delighted as to see how he would react. He knew perfectly what was going to happen, and the stepping stones to at least the first round victory. He really couldn't stop it. He didn't mean to say it. If he could take back the words that could lead to his downfall, he definitely would. Welcome to Chili's, he whispered back.